Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting, 2024, and I call this meeting to order. So we'll start off with a pledge of allegiance and then an invocation by Reverend Marvin Jacobo from City Ministry Network. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America. Let's pray. Lord, tonight before us and the board, $1.8 billion proposal for a budget. Grant us favor and wisdom as we sort through that, and especially all the little details, and grant us one mind and a sense of unity. And this evening, I do acknowledge that all authority is yours, that you've delegated your authority to representatives to represent the people and then implement the policy for the sake of the common good. And Lord, as I understand it, our founding fathers intended our democracy to be an all-community affair. These men and women are not the only ones responsible for the life, health, and well-being of our community. We all are. So Lord, with that in mind, we understand that responsibility and leadership is never an easy load to carry. The mantle of leadership brings with it all kinds of joy, and those of us who know well, all kinds of trouble. So tonight I ask that you would give all of our leaders, government, community, business, those present today, from every sector, wisdom and insight, empathy, and then resolve. Please give them courage to do that which they ought, and may they lead with integrity. And as I know, I pray many times for myself, give them the heart of a lion and then the skin of a rhinoceros. And might this proceeding be held in mutual respect and civility. In my Lord's name I pray. Amen. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for those words, Marvin. Next is public comment period for any items not on the agenda. I do have one public comment card from Gavin Klein.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the board, county staff, and community. Thank you, Gavin Klein with Congressman Duarte's office. Just want to give you all a quick update. Throughout August recess, Congressman Duarte has been extremely active throughout California's 13th congressional district. The congressman was able to host town halls in Chowchilla, Newman, Ceres, City of San Joaquin, Madera, Modesto, Coalinga, and Merced, as well as hosted a veteran roundtable in Madera and an immigration roundtable in Kerman. And the Congressman Duarte was also able to lead a hearing of the House Natural Resource Subcommittee on Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries in California's 13th Congressional District with Chairman Bentz of Oregon. The hearing was water abundance, opportunities, and challenges in California. Brought together stakeholders, water experts, community leaders to discuss the Central Valley water supply issues. Congressman David Valadeo, Vince Fong, Doug LaMaffa, Congressman Tom McClintock joined Congressman Duarte and Bentz for this great event. And before the hearing, Congressman Duarte, Bentz, and LaMaffa were able to survey the state's water system and farmland. And some of the key focuses were the panel addressed how the state and federal regulations limit water supply to Central Valley, negatively impacting farmers, families, and communities. And the panel also discussed the possible solutions to achieve sustainable water with the Water for California Act, the FISH Act, and the Folsom South Canal Extension Project. And some of the witnesses were represented by Westlands Water District, Friant Water Authority, Bordeaux Farms, South Delta Water Agency, TID, as well as Rhonda Lucas from Lucas Law. And then another one I want to touch on real quick, some great news today out of the House of Representatives. Congressman Duarte is pleased to announce that the House of Representatives passed his bill today, House Resolution 7816, the Clear Communications for Veterans Act. Veterans and their loved ones should have the opportunity to easily understand VA correspondence regarding crucial benefits. And this bill does address this issue head on. Veterans have rightly earned their benefits in the service to our nation, and Congressman Duarte is honored to be able to stand up for them. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other members of the public wanting to speak in public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move to our consent calendar. Before the board takes action on the consent calendar, does anyone in the audience wish to provide public comment on any matter on the consent calendar? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Any members of the board wanting to pull any item for further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a possible motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. I got a motion by Supervisor Buckcondit, second by Supervisor Withrow. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you so much. Next is public hearings. First hearing is a public hearing to consider the adoption of the Stanislaus Home Consortium and Stanislaus Urban County Fiscal Year 2023-2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. And conducting the presentation will be Angela Freitas and Anna San Nicolas.
Good evening, Chair Graywald, members of the board. Angela Freitas, Stanislaus County's Planning Director. Anna San Nicolas will be leading us through this presentation.
Good evening, Chairman, board members, CEO, County Council. Before you today is a Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or as we call it, CAPER, for the Stanislaus Home Consortium and the Urban County. Oops. So these two groupings have a meaning. So the Stanislaus Urban County consists of 7 of the 9 cities, all of them minus Turlock and Modesto, to apply for federal funding for community development block grant funds and emergency solutions grants. Now, the Stanislaus Home Consortium includes 8 of the 9 cities, so all of them except Modesto. Modesto receives their own home entitlement funding. So as a grouping, we are eligible to receive annual funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So we've been the lead for the CDBG Urban County since 2001, and for the Home Consortium since 2023. So the CAPER is one of the HUD requirements, for one of the reporting requirements. Every 5 years, we do a consolidated plan. We lay out the objectives, the goals set forth by the community and approved by the Board of Supervisors. And the last one was approved May of 2020. So we are in our 4th year of reporting our progress. So an analysis of impediments to fair housing is also included in this 5-year plan, as well as an annual action plan is submitted every May. And again, our CAPER is submitted at the end of the fiscal year, due in September. So this CAPER talks about the funding that we received for the fiscal year 23-24. So $2.3 million was received for community development block grant funds for the county and divided up amongst the cities. And then emergency solutions grants was received and put out in a notice of funding availability or grant cycle. And then we still have to report on CARES money for Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG CV, and Emergency Solutions Grants CARES money as well. Now, the CDBG CARES money ends in, I believe, May of 2026, and the CARES money for ESG ended this September 2023. So it was right at the beginning of this fiscal year, so we include the results or outcomes in this CAPER. And our Home Investment Partnership Program, we received $1.7 million in an allocation last year, the 23-24, and we'll talk about our work with that. So before you use a breakdown of the funding and how it was dispersed amongst the cities and the county and the different programs. So we took 10% of the overall annual allocation for public services that we included in a NOFA grant cycle that we did last December, and we put out for a year contract. And then we set aside $25,000 for fair housing for a county or urban county program for our cities and unincorporated area. And each city received some admin money for their oversight of their projects. And even though it's small, the 223 like that series received, it goes to that city for a multiple-year, multi-phase infrastructure project, and we'll go into that a little bit more. So community development block grant funding, what is the intent? It needs to meet an urgent community need, so like COVID, prevent, eliminate blight conditions in the community, and most importantly, directly benefit moderate and low-income households. Now, the COVID money that we received through this federal grant had to have the connection of being able to prepare, prevent, and alleviate the impact of COVID. So, now for the 23-24 year, Stanislaus County proceeded with their West Modesto Sewer Infrastructure Improvement Project, and each city has undergone and invested funding in infrastructure projects for health and safety issues. So pedestrian walkways, ADA compliance issues for parks, flood drain improvements, curb, gutter, sidewalk. So all the cities are, again, investing their funding there. So Ceres has part 1 and 2 completed, headed to their phase 3 of their Morrow Village ADA compliance project. City of Houston is in their phase 2. And Newman, Oakdale, and Patterson are all in the stages of planning and engineering design work. And Riverbank completed some work on their ADA compliance improvements for Castleberg Park, and Waterford completed some improvements to their Pecan, Dorsey, and Western infrastructure project. So a little bit more about our project. So something I brought up in one of our meetings, in a community meeting, is the price of our overall project was about $23 million, our estimated amount. It's now grown to about $46.3 million. So our West Modesto project has been our long-term project for about almost 6 years. And so we've been working with the State Water Board. It involves 3 neighborhoods in West Modesto, so the Spencer Marshall, Ross, Colorado, and Beverly Waverly. So altogether about 1,000 lateral connections will be the result of this and help with the health and safety issues with failing septic. Now this year we have completed the Ross, Colorado fly line portion that we completed. About 43 parcels benefited from that, and that was in partnership with the City of Modesto. They did an overall riverline alignment project, and we were just a portion of it. So we were able to partner and kind of avoid some duplication or save some money and work with them on that portion. So, and for the completion of the other sections, we will still continue to work with the State Water Board. We have an application in for Spencer Marshall and one for the Rouse, Colorado neighborhood. So we, together with Department of County Public Works, are working to move forward, and that will take on the next probably 3 to 5 years, minimal. Stanislaus County are 23-24 public services. So we were able to fund with the 10% 9 public service programs with a $35,000 maximum amount. So about 3,000 unduplicated individuals were served. We were able to fund CASA to help youth in the foster care system, Center for Human Services with some family resource centers in Oakdale, out in the west side, and in Ceres. So they were able to provide utility assistance, rental assistance, and some emergency food assistance. Modesto Red Shield, also some assistance to the community, to the kids at risk, and United Samaritans mobile food trucks. Now the CDBG CV grant CARES program, 12 programs were funded back in 27. And this year alone, we were able to help at least 3,400 unduplicated individuals. So before you guys, who we funded in fiscal year 21, and we're still again reporting yearly on the progress. The agencies that have completed their funding or exhausted it is United Samaritans for found employee hazard pay. They were able to provide an incentive for their workers that went out during the pandemic to help give them, again, a little bit more incentive to stay while working with special populations. So, now the next round of CV funding, again, we were able to fund shelters, family resource centers to provide utility, emergency assistance, and rental assistance, and also provide some shelter, the domestic violence program from Haven, and Salvation Army, again, Feed the Need program for families out in South Modesto. Now, the Emergency Solutions Grants Program is dedicated for the assistance or helping operations of shelter, as well as helping people get into stable housing and to avoid being evicted. Now, we are capped. We can only use 60% of our $208,000 that we receive yearly for shelter, and we have to have a minimum of 40% of that funding for rental assistance. So there are some limitations. ESG CARES money, again, has to have a connection to COVID. So this 23-24 year, we were able to fund 2 programs, community housing and shelter services for homeless prevention and rapid rehousing, and We Care for shelter. And so we had about 377 unduplicated individuals served. So we only count them once. They may stay at a shelter every day of the fiscal year, but again, we can only count them once. And then ESG CARES money, we have the same people up there, but it's really 3. The We Care, CHSS, and United Samaritans Foundation. Of the funding that we were able to provide to the agencies, $2.5 million went to the United Samaritans for the rehab of the We Care shelter facility. And then the remainder went to community housing and shelter services, and We Care for operations of their ESG program to help them. Now, the ESG program, again, had to have a COVID connection. And one of the biggest things that the shelters were needing, and we found a perfect opportunity to work with the City of Turlock and United Samaritans and We Care. And through our NOFA process, our grant cycle, the agency applied, and they had a need. They had I can't find the right word, a mobile or a facility that had the floor where people were falling through. So it was a dire need, and we were able to work with HUD, and they applied through our funding process, and we were able to provide funding with the voting of the Stanislaus Urban County members. So we were able to provide an elevator to provide access to those that were disabled and are not able to access the second floor of the shelter. We were able to provide commercial upgrades to the kitchen, and basically almost a new facility for the kitchen, which also the dining room serves as an overflow shelter for the summer and winter months, and then also a laundry area, as well as outside area for spacing, giving the proper spacing that during the pandemic was required, and also some filtration systems for water. So, sorry. And one more thing is the project that we initiated with this started maybe about 6 years ago with the City of Turlock. It took us through the pandemic to work with HUD to finally complete it. And I'm almost too happy to say that the notice of completion by the City of Turlock should hopefully be filed by this month. So we will finally see the completion of this project. So, Home Investment Partnership Program. So this is the funding that we receive for housing for our consortium, including Turlock. So before you are the activities that are allowed. So rehabilitation of owner-occupied housing, assistance to home buyers, whether it's by a subsidy or down payment assistance program, acquisition, rehab, construction, and some tenant-based rental assistance. So we have kept the 1.7 million, and we have an allocation for about 1.3 million for 24-25 that the Home Consortium has agreed to put together in partnership with the City of Turlock to do a joint request for proposals. So we are working again with the city to put together their remaining funding from the old consortium, when then our current funding for our new consortium to seek out housing development projects. And our hope is to be able to report on that at the next CAPER, but we will hope to release a request for proposals for this in this calendar year.
And I don't want to get you off, but how much money was left over in the Turlock home? We've got the 1.7 million, because this is our first draw off of the home funds, right?
Yeah.
And
Turlock has approximately anywhere from 5 to 6 million at the
Okay.
moment.
so we can make a heck of a dent, the two of them together. That's actually really good. Thank you.
Yeah, so it'd be their money plus the 1.7 and our 1.3. And so our goals to date, to round out our year 4, we were able to far surpass the assistance, our goal for sheltering individuals. We went past in our 5-year outcome, our goal, and our annual. Where we've struggled is our rapid rehousing, which is rental assistance, and our homeless prevention. Because this plan was created right at the beginning of COVID, and also during this time, there was a moratorium that prevented us from being able to assist as many as we were hoping to. We did not reach those numbers, but we did have to pivot, and we were able to assist those that needed assistance with shelter. So that's why the numbers, you'll see them very low for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention, but much higher for shelter individuals. Now, this doesn't count the access.
So I'm just going to say real quick, we talked about this at Seesaw because this was concerning to people, but there were outside forces that were affecting us basically in doing
Yes.
this, right? I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, why those were so low. I think you kind of did, but just...
Yeah, there was a combination of a moratorium which prevented people, it protected renters from being evicted. So it was a very good protection, but on the other side, it also didn't allow for, let's say, the flow of more availability of units. And there's also a lack of affordable units as well. Some landlords really did not want to rent during that time. It was really not appealing, and again, there was a lot of challenges to being a landlord. So we struggled to find landlords that would want to participate with the program as well, so.
Perfect, thank you.
And this doesn't count the money that we received from the state, which is about 23 million as well. So we were able to utilize that funding also, but this just reports on the 3.7. And then for our infrastructure goals, we had a lot of cities have some staff turnover. Pricing of material went up over the last few years, so they've had to collect a little bit more additional CDBG money in order to achieve being able to complete their projects. So we have several underway this year, so we hope to get closer to meeting the 5-year goal for infrastructure. Affordable housing, we may be able to reach 100%, but we're at 95%. And then with our public services, we've been able to exceed. Now, our public comment period started August 16th, and we only need a 15-day required comment period. We were ending September 10th, but we're here today. We had the rescheduled public meeting, so we will end it today. We have received nothing from any of the cities, but we did receive one letter today from Valley Regional asking to just take them into consideration for future NOFA's future grants to see how we can better serve the population with disability. And so that was received about 4:30 this afternoon. So we did receive one comment on the CAPER, where we did a presentation for the Turlock Community Collaborative. And again, they made comments, and they also just submitted an email to us. And so we posted on our website, our Urban County members and the City of Turlock are having their meetings in the month of September. We are presenting to the Continuum of Care in September, and we are here today for our public hearing. So, and we also presented to the Shaw last week. And our staff recommendations today is to conduct the public hearing and approve the fiscal year 23-24 CAPER, authorize our planning director to incorporate any comments received, submit the CAPER to HUD, and staff to submit any technical changes as directed by HUD for the completion of the CAPER. Any questions?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Do any members of the board have any questions? Supervisor Condit?
Thank you for presentation, Anna, and also thank you for meeting with the mayor of Patterson and also the mayor of Turlock about that Turlock Historium funding for specific senior housing off of Las Palmas out in Patterson, so I do appreciate that. But that kind of segues into my line of questioning, is how do we increase veteran and senior housing through these type of funds? Are we targeting those type of projects within the county?
It is one of our priorities, and we are putting out the request for funds, and we are talking to developers, hoping that there will be incentive. And one of the ways that we hope to bring developers interested in coming and doing this work here is by pulling our money together. So working with the City of Turlock would definitely help, because having 3 million versus 8 to 9 million together definitely is a bigger incentive. And then we've been working with the cities, even though we are not having our RFP, our request for proposals out, we are working with staff to prepare them. So making sure, even though if they have a developer interested or an idea, we're giving them the process of one thing that could really stall a project would be an environmental review. So making sure that all city staff in our consortium has the staff ready to go, and if they have an idea, doesn't matter what funding you're going to be using, you're going to need an environmental review.
Absolutely, and so we're probably targeting shovel-ready sites, obviously, and we're identifying those sites.
We hope.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be basically a feasibility study too. So yeah, if it's shovel-ready, that would definitely help.
Okay. And maybe it would be helpful to identify those specific parcels that would qualify as shovel-ready, and then maybe make that presentation to the cities. Or I don't know how we streamline the process, but obviously if we could streamline it, the better, and work with our city partners and try to accomplish all the needs of our county, because obviously we're all in this, and we all have a skin in the game on this, and we all want to kind of see the same results, which is obviously more accessibility to housing in Stanislaus County. So again, thank you, Anna, and we appreciate it, and I look forward to continuing working on this with you.
Great. If there's no further questions for the board, I will take it out to the public to see if there's any questions regarding this item. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a possible motion.
Motion to approve, CAPER?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Chiesa and a second by Supervisor Withrow. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, next public hearing is to consider and adopt the 2025 adopted budget and related actions. And starting off the presentation will be CEO Hayes.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and just get us started while we're bringing the presentation up on the screen. We have quite a few folks here who are going to support tonight's presentation. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening for our recommended budget hearing. The 2025 adopted budget process and our department requests were really shaped with recognition of slowed growth in what we call discretionary revenue here in Stanislaus County. So that's our general fund revenues. definitely further impacted by increasing costs. Our costs continue to go up while we have slowed growth in revenues across the board. While we've seen this progression over the last few years, this really is the first cycle in our budget process, in at least our recent county history, that I feel like we really feeling the effects of those two things, between slowed growth in revenues and increasing costs across the board. So in a moment or so, we're going to pop a quote up on the screen, and you'll see that it does provide some clarity for our priorities, particularly around having intent. We're very intentional in what we do, having vision. We have clear vision on our budgets here, and obviously courses of action. So you're going to see a really motivating quote here in just a few moments, but I'll keep going. So for us, this requires real determined alignment with our existing budget policies. We're guided heavily by the policies supported by this board and prior boards. A focus on quality fiscal management, protecting all of those critical resources, the good work of our county departments, and prioritizing minimum mandates. There are things that we are required to do here in Stanislaus County as county government, as well as supporting our safety and security issues for our county workforce and clients. So as our financial constraints do grow, so does the difficulty in decision-making required to bring forward a budget for your consideration. These budgets that you're seeing now and most recently, they have become more and more difficult to balance given our resources and the clear requests, demands, and needs of our county departments to serve the public. So through this process, we've had various mitigation strategies that we identified. Some of our needs have been deferred to future consideration. Many of our departments have put forward requests that we're going to have to reconsider at mid-year. You'll hear more about that. Others were not recommended out of necessity. And all of these decisions are made with the overall budget picture in mind. We have held steadfast in our alignment of support to available funding, using our ongoing revenue for continuing costs, and pointing to reserves to support our one-time needs. That's a hallmark of our budget process. We look to ongoing revenues to support any new service level increases, and we look to use our savings account to pay for those things that are just one-time commitments. We have held firm to our multi-year commitments that were already in place, and we're happy to be able to provide the third and final year allocation of what we call our Building Community Services Investment Fund, which further improves county facilities and libraries and parks. And we were able to do that thanks to a positive year-end close that did benefit the general fund. In a static fiscal environment, growth, if available at all, is carefully measured and closely monitored. It does require an economy mindset, is what we refer to it as. It requires a certain frugality in the expenditure of available resources. I do personally feel confident that this budget is built upon a solid base. I think our departments, even in the general fund, not receiving all of their budget requests, have received a very, very strong and supportive base budget. And that those departments' budgets have been adjusted as we look to the guidance of our historical budget principles. Those things all lead us through our challenges, and it really does help us forge the way for what has historically been a successful venture to manage fiscal stability in Stanislaus County, as well as our economic future, not just under this board, but prior boards as well. So it's my pleasure to hand over this presentation to our team. So at the staff table, we do have Patrice Dietrich, our County Operations, Chief Operations Officer. She's assisted by Senior Management Consultants Joshua Woolworth, who's here, Patrick Kavanaugh there in the chair, and our HR Director, Monica Courier. I also would like, as we like to do with all these presentations, we've also invited a couple of our department heads to join us. So you'll see some department heads join us in tonight's presentation. But I really want to recognize that we have leaders from throughout the county with us here this evening, along with the CEO budget team that are prepared to answer any questions that you may have at the conclusion of tonight's presentation. I really do want to take a moment. My last comment is to thank all of the county staff that are with us this evening, watching, or those who participated in the development of this budget. It really takes a lot of people to develop a $1.8 billion spending plan, and I'm very thankful for all of your contributions to come together and present the best possible plan we can for the Board of Supervisors to consider. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our team.
Okay, thank you, Jody. It's our pleasure to be here before you, board members, this evening.
We're going to start off by talking a little bit about the purpose of the adopted budget. So this adopted budget builds on the preliminary budget that your board approved, the proposed budget back in June. That 2025 proposed budget supported the county's commitment to maintaining our existing service levels. And what we mean by that is the full cost and funding for the current allocated positions with the current operational costs needed to support those programs and services in the community. In other words, the attempt of the 2025 proposed budget is to fully fund what it costs to keep the lights on for an organization of this size and complexity. One of the things we are recognizing in holding on to our current service levels is that costs continue to escalate, and it's becoming more challenging keeping up with those costs in our base budget. This 2025 adopted budget before you today builds upon that base. We've been mindful, as Jody noted, of our finite resources available that are to support growth. So the elements that we incorporated into this budget include information from our year-end close, state and federal budget impacts as the state budget has finally settled, updated cost and revenue estimates as our departments were able to dial in that data more effectively, and the identification of various programmatic needs across the organization that are prioritized based on the evaluation of minimum mandates first, safety and security issues, and financial risk mitigation before all other needs. The result of the work is the 2025 recommended adopted budget before you this evening. We have identified this as the definitive operational plan for the organization through June 30, 2025. This will be the budget that we benchmark all changes from, and when we do our historical comparisons, we typically look adopted budget to adopted budget in order to see our budgetary trends. We have prepared, reviewed, and approved these documents in accordance with the County Budget Act, California Government Code Sections 29,000 through 29,144 for anyone who loves that kind of reading. And as required to be made available to the public by September 8th, we did post this budget 2 days early on September 6th. We are before you tonight with the required public hearing, and this budget must be adopted no later than October 2nd. We're pretty confident that you'll see plenty here tonight to adopt this evening. So moving on, the adopted budget recommended is a $1.85 billion budget. It supports 4,926 positions. This is a table on screen in which we're comparing to the 2024 adopted budget, so last year's budget, and the 2025 proposed budget in order to give context to what's being recommended this evening. So it's important to note that our department submitted $78.8 million of requests. That's a large number. It is significant. And you can see in the column outlined with a red box that we're recommending adjustments of $39.2 million. It's a big difference from the $78.8 million that was requested. We do not take that lightly. There was a lot of analysis that went into these recommendations. This is a recommended increase of 2.2% over the proposed. It's funded by $18.6 million in department revenue, the use of $5.7 million in department fund balance and retained earnings, and $14.8 million in general fund support over what we had included in proposed budget. This means that the adopted budget recommendations account for just about half of the requests considered. The process to go through those lists, we talked about mitigation strategies, deferring needs to future consideration, looking for available funding. We have a number of issues which we've targeted to do in-depth reviews with the departments in partnership with their leadership and budget teams, evaluating other revenue sources in hopes to mitigate some of those exposures to the general fund, and to maintain and hold on to services that our departments have identified are needed for our community. What you see in the bottom left of that screen, the little caution triangle there, $39.6 million is what we were not able to recommend at this time that can be characterized as unmet needs for departments. We'll talk about them a bit, highlighting them in the presentation throughout the priority areas, and a full list of those unmet needs is included as an attachment 6 to the board agenda item. Compared year over year, the recommended 25 adopted budget represents $127.3 million, or a 7.4% increase over the 24 adopted budget. In total, it's supported by, on the far right on that table, $1.38 billion in department revenue, the use of $90.6 million in department fund balance and retained earnings, $382.5 million in general fund support. That $382.5 million, we also refer to that as net county cost. This is the local funding being used to balance the totality of the county budget. So we're going to go on now and talk a little bit about how that general fund contribution net county cost is actually financed. So you can see on the top right, the $382.5 million net county cost. If you move to the left, we're able to support that need with $310.3 million of discretionary revenue, $72.2 million of fund balance. Of that, $65.3 million is coming from assignments. These are assignments we've put away for specific identified one-time needs we saw coming. And also $6.9 million in unassigned fund balance. We plan to pull about $7 million a year from unassigned fund balance to balance the budget. Fund balance, again, is a way of looking at our reserves accumulated over prior fiscal years. As Jody mentioned earlier, we try to use fund balance for one-time needs. It's a one-time benefit for one-time needs. One of the things that I think is important to call out in this budget is that about 2/3 of the $72.2 million we're pulling from fund balance is supporting one-time costs, but that means that there's about $23.4 million that we're using in fund balance to support ongoing operations. That little element, that's our structural deficit, okay, about $23.4 million. On the far right, there's a little light bulb. That's the clue to me to remind me to tell you that of the $382.5 million in net county cost, we added about $32 million over the 2024 net county cost, and of that, $30.5 million is that base budget just to keep the lights on in net county cost. That's how much we're going to add every year, roughly, just to keep the lights on. So we'll talk now on the next slide about discretionary revenue. Again, the discretionary revenue is $310.3 million. It's up just $2.7 million from proposed budget. There's $2.9 million in adjustment due to property tax revenue based on the final figures from the assessment roll. And then there's a slight accounting adjustment for a cost plan true-up. Those happen annually in 2 years in arrears. So the majority of the $2.7 million is related to strong property tax growth, which we continue to hold on to. Property taxes are the main source of our discretionary revenue. On the next slide, here we have annual discretionary revenue received from 2016 on the left through 2024 in the blue bar. Those are the actuals. The last green bar there is the recommended 25 adopted budget projection. Over the years displayed, we've averaged annual discretionary revenue growth of about 6.5%. The 25 adopted budget includes discretionary revenue estimated at $310.3 million, which is an increase of just 0.9% over the proposed budget. It's actually a decrease of 1.8% from the 2024 actuals. One of the things that we will continue to do is closely monitor discretionary revenue and give updates to you quarterly in financial reports should any of those trends change. On this chart as well, we're pointing out there was a bit of an anomaly between fiscal years 22 and 23, which is the impact of the fair market value of investment adjustments, representing the portion of investments purchased with pool cash that are allocable to the county general fund and recorded at discretionary revenue. So had those two adjustments not taken place, we would have ended up with additional higher revenues in 22 and lower revenues in 23. And those orange lines on the chart are just to show you that one-time anomaly it skews the results, and you can't see the general trend line there up. Discretionary revenue is our critical revenue for balancing in the long-range model and for balancing the general fund. This is a busy little chart. So before we leave the discretionary revenue discussion, we want to highlight one component of that revenue, which is public safety sales tax, otherwise known as Prop 172 sales tax. For those of you who've been watching the state budget for a long time, you may remember that part of the state's budget balancing back in 1993-94, the state actually shifted property tax revenues from counties and cities to schools. To mitigate the loss to local government, Prop 172 was passed and provided a 1/2 cent sales tax levy exclusively for local public safety activities. This chart is showing the story of Prop 172 from 2001 on the left through 2024 on the right. The gray line, it's that bottom line that kind of coasts along through the bars, that represents the Prop 172 revenue. In 2024, which is the far right bar, the county received $63.8 million in Prop 172 sales tax revenue. And in 2025, just for context, we're anticipating slightly less, 63.1, almost the same figure. As a condition of receiving Prop 172 sales tax, counties are required to meet a maintenance of effort. And so the maintenance of effort is on this chart. It's the green line. So you can see it cruising along across all the bars just above the gray line. That maintenance of effort is $88.4 million in 2024. And what's meaningful about this chart is we do track it at the beginning of a budget cycle and at the end of each fiscal year. We're required, actually, to certify that we've met the MOE requirement. We are required to give it to the auditor's office, who must track it and report it. So what you can see is the bar charts are showing what the county's contribution to public safety has actually been in each of those years. So the bar charts are significantly above that green line. So anything above the green line is showing you the amount in excess of contribution. So the blue bar is the net county cost. In 2024, we're providing $204.2 million in funding for public safety. The state allows other revenues to be counted, so it adds a little bit more to the top of the bar, up to $211.5 million. We are $123.1 million above the required MOE through 2024, and that continues in through 2025. So we will continue to monitor those receipts. It is a very important revenue source. It's really what allows the board to have the ability to provide the funding levels that are being recommended and that you ask us to look for the district attorney, for probation, for sheriff, as well as OES fire warden, and also fire districts where you are making a contribution. Okay, on this slide, our annual budget analysis is always completed with attention to multi-year general fund long-range modeling. On screen here, you see the model in a picture. We've taken to calling it the spaghetti chart. It's very high technical when we describe it that way. This is what we're looking at with our financial decisions, the sustainability of critical services to the community. We have, on the far left, we start with the fund balance. We began the year with July 1, 2024, $248.1 million. We are modeling in each of those lines potential actual utilization of our budget in the long-range model going forward. So we're reflecting annual revenue growth forecast at 3.2 to 3.3%, general fund cost growing at about 3% annually a year through 2029. And if all costs came in as budgeted, if every dollar of the budget appropriations was spent, we would follow that red line trajectory. And by 2029, our fund balance would be, I believe that says negative $7 million. We show this chart because we don't ever allow ourselves to fall down into a negative fund balance. We monitor, adjust, we highlight for the board, you all give us policy direction and guidance, and we continue to adjust going forward. On this chart, you can see some other budget operational levels depicted. So the 95% spending level is the next line up from the bottom. It's blue. If we spent at 91%, which is the black line there towards the middle, we would end with fund balance in 2029 of approximately $239 million. We look at that blue line quite frequently because 91% budget utilization is the closest we've seen. It's the most recent experience over the last 2-3 years, actually, right around 91%. And so we look at that to give us some comfort when we're going out on a limb of identifying a structural budget deficit, as I just explained. So keeping in mind this is the full range that we see. And then we ran one more version if we only utilized 85% of our budget, we would actually be growing fund balance by 2029. I've not seen 85% in the last many years. So in closing this slide, again, important to note that we have ongoing evaluation, that this tool is useful, and this is the tool. It's actually the discussions and the dialogue and the strategic planning with you all based on a tool that can prompt a discussion that allows us to maintain fiscal strength and to provide that policy direction and assurance for fiscal sustainability. And with that, I will turn it over to Joshua to talk a little bit about the budget.
So budgeted appropriations represent the authorized spending level based on anticipated costs for the year. This chart provides an annual comparison of budget appropriations over multiple years, showing the total budgeted appropriations along with a portion budgeted specifically for general fund budgets. Since the 2019 adopted budget, total budgeted appropriations have shown an average annual increase of 4.7%, while the general fund has experienced an average annual growth of 5.4%. Outside a one-year decline in overall appropriations attributable to post-COVID budget adjustments in fiscal year 2022, the budget has steadily increased over time. General fund represents local dollars used to fund a variety of programs and services derived from discretionary revenue and reserves from prior fiscal periods. The distribution of those local dollars is critical to operations in many county departments and totals in the hundreds of millions. To bring those figures down into a more meaningful and understandable range, the amounts on screen show for every $10 budgeted in general fund, how much is provided to the top recipient departments. For every $10 budgeted in general fund, $4.23 is allocated to the sheriff, $1.01 goes to support county operations, 85 cents supports probation, 76 cents goes to the district attorney, 40 cents supports the general services agency, 36 cents goes to the public defender, 35 cents supports parks and recreation, 35 cents provides match funds for the community services agency, and 25 cents goes to the chief executive office, with $1.44 going to all other departments. This shows that 62.9% of general fund support goes to departments in the board's top priority of supporting a strong and safe community. The recommended 2025 adopted budget is displayed on screen by priority, noting the budget and percentage of the overall total devoted to each board priority area. Departments supporting a healthy community account for the largest portion of the county budget, representing 40.5% of the adopted budget. Those departments delivering efficient public services make up 22.8% of the budget, of which approximately 70% represents various administrative budgets that support the entire organization. Departments supporting a strong and safe community represent 20.4% of the budget, followed by those enhancing community infrastructure, which makes up 13% of budgeted appropriations. Departments developing a high-performing economy and promoting lifelong learning make up the remainder of the budget at 1.9% and 1.4% respectively. So on the previous slide, we mentioned that 70% of the efficient or priority makes up the county operations. This section here talks about, throughout the explanation, we have referenced county operations. This chart displays a high-level summary of the types of programs and services that are accounted for within this category. About 47% of county operations, or $137.4 million, supports the self-administered county benefit and insurance programs, including medical, dental, vision, workers' compensation, and general liability. Approximately 41%, or $122.1 million, accounts for various special funding sources that must be allocated throughout the community, partners, or county programs within specific criteria provided by statute or directive. Examples include American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, appropriations for contingencies, general fund contributions, vehicle license fee pass-through from the state to social services programs, and more. Finally, about 12%, or $35.7 million, is dedicated to local projects programs, including contribution to the airport, cannabis program, and Crow's Landing Industrial Business Park. County operations funds are managed in the CEO under policy guidelines set by the board. That concludes the overall budget analysis, and now we're going to share some highlights of recommendations in each board priority. The recommended 2025 adopted budget for departments supporting a strong and safe community totals $377.7 million, an increase of $2.7 million over the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $128 million in revenue, $8.7 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $240.9 million in net county cost. The net county cost represents 63.8% of the budget for this priority. Overall, adjustments result in the net deletion of 2 positions. The 2025 adopted budget for those departments supporting a strong and safe community includes various adjustments to the 2025 proposed budget that benefit the community. On July 26, 2024, the Board of Supervisors approved the creation of the Office of Emergency Services as a standalone department. The recommendations in the 2025 adopted budget transfer the associated budget and positions out of the Sheriff's Department to establish the new Office of Emergency Services. The budget also includes appropriations for grant-funded activities, including multi-year services for victim services, elder abuse, unserved, underserved victim advocacy and outreach in the District Attorney's Office, and community paramedicine and Homeland Security grant activities for the Office of Emergency Services. Support for city partners is provided by adding 1 deputy sheriff as a community resource deputy for the city of Riverbank. Assistance for California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal, otherwise known as CalAIM, implementation to build capacity to integrate Medi-Cal services within the probation department and criminal justice system, providing youth access to case management and supportive services pre- and post-release from incarceration. The District Attorney's Office will also purchase 2 new vehicles to support the District Attorney and the criminal investigator. Additionally, the budget will allow the Sheriff's Office to replace 2 high-capacity washing machines, including the cost required to provide upgrades or repairs to the facilities, plumbing, electrical services, and chemical hookup. The recommended 2025 adopted budget for departments supporting a healthy community totals $749.7 million, an increase of $9.5 million over the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $693 million in departmental revenue, the use of $331.8 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $24.9 million in net county cost. The net county cost represents 3.3% of the budget for this priority. Overall, adjustments result in the net increase of 7 positions. The recommended adjustments included in the adopted budget for those departments supporting a healthy community provide a variety of benefits to the community. Most departments in this priority utilize the adopted budget process to right size to available external funding. For aging and veteran services, this aligns with funding provided for the Senior Nutrition Infrastructure Multi-Year Grant, the Area Plan, Preventive and Early Intervention Programs, American Rescue Plan Act or ARPA funding, and voluntary mail contributions. The adjustments for behavioral health and recovery services align with Mental Health Services Act or MHSA revenue, Medi-Cal Federal Financial Participation or FFP funding, support for area agency on aging prevention programs, and funding for access center services. For child support services, this includes accommodating reduced funding from the state, realigning resources to support technological upgrades. Right-sizing for the Community Services Agency aligns support to housing, assistance, and prevention Round 4 and Round 5 revenue, along with Housing Disability Advocacy Program funding. The adopted budget also provides additional staffing in support of various behavioral health and recovery services programs and services, including data management services, psychiatry and medication clinics, system of care, and housing program, and specialty mental health services for foster youth. As approved by the Board of Supervisors in June, the Paradise Medical Office, Rehabilitation Clinic, and Specialty Clinic are no longer operated by the county effective July 1, 2024, and are now operated by Golden Valley Health Centers. The adopted budget includes the necessary adjustments to align with this reorganization within the Health Services Agency. Additional adjustments for the Health Services Agency include the addition of 2 positions in support of the Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC program, in response to rising caseloads and to meet the needs of the community. The department will also budget for the new Environmental Justice Project grant to assess heat, air quality, and weather-related disaster impacts on Stanislaus County residents and prepare the county and its partners to identify, respond to, and mitigate these impacts. Finally, Health Services Agency will work to upgrade all IT infrastructure switches to improve cybersecurity efforts. I would like to welcome to the podium Patrick Kavanaugh to discuss the remaining priorities.
Good evening. The recommended 2025 adopted budget for departments developing a high-performing economy totals $35.3 million, a decrease of $116,000 from the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $30.9 million in department revenue, the use of $5,000 in fund balance, and $4.4 million in net county costs. The net county cost represents 12.5% of the budget for this priority. There is no changes to positions. The 2025 adopted budget for those departments developing a high-performing economy provides several benefits to the community. On April 30th, 2024, the Board of Supervisors approved fee increases for services provided by the Agricultural Commissioner's Office, including phytosanitary certification inspections, industrial hemp inspections, apiary colony strength inspections, certified farmers market and certified producer inspections, device registrations, and residential utility meter fees. Adjustments in the adopted budget update fee revenue in line with these increases. The Agricultural Commissioner is also right-sizing for state contracts to perform a variety of agricultural inspections. Workforce Development is also right-sizing its budget to Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funding for regional programs that implement in-demand occupations through apprenticeships for over 2 years and to align with the county's poverty and unemployment rate and associated needs. Additional adjustments align with State Department of Rehabilitation funding to assist disabled youth in obtaining work experience, California Volunteer Youth Corps funding, the governor's discretionary funds in support of training for farmers in English language, farm workers in English language, and training and job placement for justice-involved individuals. Workforce Development will also align community engagement and interagency program funding with additional support to the Community Services Agency Homeless Youth Program and update the budget to align with multi-year investments with Central Valley Opportunity Center for farm worker training programs. Let's see if I can get this right. The recommended 2025 adopted budget for the department promoting lifelong learning totals $26.7 million, an increase of $3.7 million over the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $19.6 million in departmental revenue, the use of $3.2 million in fund balance, and $3.9 million in net county costs. The net county costs represents 14.6% of the budget for this priority. There is no changes to positions. The 2025 adopted budget for the library, the department promoting lifelong learning, provides key benefits to the community. The library will utilize Year 3 Building Community Service Investment Funding to support facility improvements at the county's libraries. The library has committed the first $7 million in BCSI funding to tenant improvement projects at the Modesto and Salida libraries, as well as Americans with Disability Act compliance projects at the Riverbank and Newman libraries. The library will also replace 2 cargo vans used to transfer books, supplies, furniture, and equipment through the library's 13 locations. Budget adjustments include support for the Modesto Basement Improvement Project, including the purchase of 11 office cubicles and network infrastructure updates for 5 community libraries previously budgeted in fiscal year 2024. Additionally, the library will work to increase its e-book budget to align with historical levels. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome to the podium Sarah Denton, the county librarian.
Good evening, Chair Grewal, CEO Hayes, Council Bows, Supervisors. I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to share some of the library's highlights with you this year. As you know, the library falls under the priority promoting lifelong learning, and to that end, we continue to engage in public programming, inviting community members to create, learn, and discover with us. In fiscal year 2024, the library presented 2,415 programs, attended by 73,147 people. This represents a 49% increase in attendance over the previous year. You've heard me talk a lot about the focus we put on early childhood programs, and 41% of our programs are designed for children between the ages of birth and 5. Library staff presented more than 700 story time programs last year, and then there were another about 200 programs for that age group. The library has been working for some time to provide access to quality science, technology, engineering, arts, and math experiences, or STEAM experiences, to residents of all ages. We do this through a mix of in-house programs and programs done in cooperation with our partners. I'd like to share some of the work that we've done recently in collaboration with the Modesto Children's Museum. In 2022, this board allocated funds for the library to work with the Modesto Children's Museum, or MOCHIMU, with the goal of bringing the benefits of the museum to families across the county. In April of this year, the museum presented Eclipse programs at all of our library's branches, taking advantage of this rare opportunity to introduce both the museum and astronomy to children countywide. More recently, the museum developed programs specifically for our summer reading challenge, and this summer, each branch hosted 2 MOCHIMU STEAM programs: Junior Engineers for children preschool to grade 2, and Coaster Creators for grade 2 through 8. The picture you have here is our junior engineers doing their thing. As you can see from this image, these programs were an absolute hit with kids and really a win for both organizations. Starting next month, Stanislaus County residents will be able to use their library cards to reserve 1 free family pass for the Modesto Children's Museum through the library's Discover and Go platform. Discover and Go offers local families free and low-cost access to museums and other venues throughout Northern California, and we are thrilled to be able to have MOCHIMU on board. Finally, while we love when people visit the library to learn, we also know the importance of learning at home. And to that end, and with funding from the California State Library, in June we opened a game library. Developmentally appropriate board games for young children support a range of skills important to literacy and kindergarten readiness, and games for older children and adults support reading, mathematics, and other skills for all ages. For example, Candyland helps with color recognition as well as interpersonal skills like taking turns, both of which are important for kindergarten readiness. Scattergories and Apples to Apples build vocabulary. Operation and Jenga support the development of fine motor skills. Sorry and Trouble both provide plenty of practice counting. And games for older kids and adults, like Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride, utilize a wide range of skills, including strategic thinking, collaboration, negotiation, and spatial reasoning. With 46 different games, we have something for everyone. In the first months of the program, games circulated 136 times. Given how popular these games are, many do currently have holds lists, and the game with the most holds currently is Hungry Hungry Hippo, which supports fine motor skills, hand-eye coordination, and counting. The Stanislaus County Library is committed to promoting lifelong learning and fostering connections within our community. Through innovative programs, partnerships, and the introduction of new resources, we will continue providing creative and educational opportunities for county residents of all ages. Those are just some of our highlights. Thank you for your time.
You should have seen all the adults smiling when you said Hungry Hungry Hippo. It was amazing. Smiles everywhere. Everyone's changing their passwords now.
Okay, thank you.
So our next board priority is enhancing community infrastructure. And the recommended 2025 adopted budget for departments enhancing community infrastructure totals $240.8 million, an increase of $9.3 million over the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $181.2 million in department revenue, the use of $38.5 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $21.1 million in net county costs. The net county cost represents 8.8% of the budget for this priority, and there are no changes to positions. The recommended 2025 adopted budget includes various adjustments for those departments enhancing community infrastructure that provide several benefits to the community. Environmental Resources will purchase heavy equipment needed for the Fink Road landfill, including a compactor and 2 bulldozers, requiring additional contracted support for heavy equipment maintenance. The department will also improve infrastructure at the landfill by repairing a section of fence facing Interstate 5 and installing an aggregate-based wet weather tipping pad to provide more secure surface for trucks using the landfill. Parks and Recreation will appropriate year 3 of building community service investment funding in support of county parks projects. And the department will also adjust its office hours to Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. to align with other departments and agencies located at the Agricultural Center campus effective September 30th, 2024. Adjustments in planning community development will ensure support for the implementation of the sixth cycle housing element. And finally, adjustments in the adopted budget will provide the means to purchase new and replacement security cameras for the Public Works Department Corporation Yard. The recommended 2025 adopted budget for departments delivering efficient public services totals $422.7 million, an increase of $14.1 million over the 2025 proposed budget. The adopted budget is funded by $282.3 million in department revenue, the use of $8.3 million in fund balance and retained earnings, and $132.1 million in net county costs. The net county cost represents 31.3% of the budget for this priority. Overall adjustments result in a net increase of 2 positions. The recommended adjustments included in the 2025 adopted budget for those departments delivering efficient public services provide a variety of benefits to the community. An additional position in the assessor's office will support the business division's ability to provide timely compliance with requirements regarding the annual assessment of taxable personal property, which has the potential to bring in additional property tax revenue that benefits the general fund through discretionary revenue. The Clerk Recorder's Office is making a series of adjustments to mitigate the recording fee revenue loss experienced over the past year, including increasing reliance on modernization funding, transferring allowable costs between divisions, and holding 3 positions vacant pending deletion in the future. The Clerk Recorder Elections Division adjustments will accommodate the increased costs anticipated for the November general presidential election tied to the addition of the county cannabis tax measure on the ballot. The General Services Agency will appropriate year 3 building community services investment funding and continue support of countywide facilities. Additionally, a new position will support the department's safety program to ensure compliance with policy, procedures, and safety protocols. Finally, Information Technology Central, or ITC, will work to improve service provision to county departments by realigning positions and contracted services. ITC provides IT support to several county departments and has continued to expand services to provide additional support. I would now like to introduce and welcome Andy Johnson, Director and Purchasing Agent for the General Services Agency, to the podium.
I don't know about you, but I feel like playing some Candyland. Maybe learn to take my turn again. Good evening, my name, Chairman Graywall, members of the Board of Supervisors, COAs, and County Council. My name is Andy Johnson. That's the hardest part for me to get through whenever I talk, is to get the protocol. I have the great privilege of working with the 90 members of the General Services Agency. Our mission is we build community by providing the foundation that supports countywide departments so that they may successfully deliver services to the community. What does this really mean? We believe that it's our job to provide the tools, goods, and services of each department to be successful. We value people and partnerships, and we actively work to find a way to yes. This can be done through our fleet department, who maintains 1,200 vehicles and 300 pieces of equipment. If you ever get the opportunity to come out to fleet, we'd love to welcome you there. These gentlemen should really be wearing lab coats and the different vehicles that they have to maintain. They can custom fabricate anything, and they're actively learning how to be EV vehicle technicians as we go forward. Some really great stuff happening out there. Our purchasing department issues a range of 8,000 purchase orders annually. These are done through navigating a complex world of how to spend public monies. We issue countless requests for proposals, do tons of sealed bids, and review hundreds of contracts annually. Our maintenance team and lock shop service over 2.5 million square feet of space. We support 24-hour detention facilities as well as county office space. This team worked hard all summer long to keep the air conditioning going, and even at 10th Street, where we're experiencing some problems, we can keep it on. We can't necessarily control the temperatures on. We only lost one building all summer, and we lost it for 4 days and had a plan in place to bring in temporary cooling equipment. This is a direct result of the money that this board has put into your deferred maintenance program and your BCSI program. We are actively working at fixing air conditioners, boilers, roofs, and all kinds of things. And so we appreciate your support on that, and we will continue to upgrade our facilities. Our custodial service team services buildings in our downtown core, which include the district attorney's office, public defender, and clerk recorder's office. We recently added real estate services and are in constant negotiation with landlords on approximately 90 leases throughout the county. We even occasionally serve as a property manager for both the 10th Street and other facilities. GSA provides capital construction projects. Our current projects include major renovation of the Modesto Library, restoration of the Bonita Pool, and tenant improvement projects at the Salida Library, and a major, which is my favorite project, a major retrofit to the public safety sewer system we are working on. Yes, it's the auger. Yes, absolutely. We are also a catch-all department. We administer the county's Americans with Disabilities program, ensuring compliance with applicable law. We administer the 10th Street Place JPA in partnership with the Chief Executive Office and the Auditor Controller's Office, which is a $3.1 million budget, and this building is like a little city. It has purchasing functions and contract functions and all kind of different things. We provide oversight to the condominium association at 12th Street. Yes, there is a condominium association. The county owns 3 floors of that building. 1 is owned by Stan Sarah, and 2 are owned by a private developer. And we also care for the Gallo Center for the Arts, partnering with the center staff to provide maintenance and construction services to this community treasure. On behalf of our 90 employees, we thank you for the opportunity tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Good evening. We began this evening's presentation discussing process and requirements specific to the adopted budget. Stanislaus County has a standard approach to addressing new staffing needs as well. Typically, requests for changes to the allocation count occur at 3 major budget cycles: proposed, adopted, and mid-year budget. This allows time for careful planning and review by the departments requesting the positions and the Chief Executive Office evaluating those requests. Part of that evaluation ensures that new positions conform to policy direction and meet the needs of the department while aligning with the classification system. All staffing requests are tempered by available funding. New positions typically require at least 2 years of ongoing funding to be approved. This ensures continuity of support and stability in the positions added to the county allocation count. This factor weighed heavily on the considerations at adopted budget. An additional challenge comes from longstanding vacancies in hard-to-fill classifications. The CEO HR staff are partnering with departments to find effective ways to fill these positions. In the meantime, limits are being set on adding positions when there are significant vacancies in the respective classification so as not to add to the overall vacancy rate. The 2024 adopted budget included provisions for 4,866 allocated positions. Throughout fiscal year 2024, another 34 positions were added to the organization. Adjustments in the 2025 proposed budget added 19 positions with increases in behavioral health and recovery services, public works, probation, and also reductions in the child support services. These adjustments resulted in an allocation count of 4,919 positions. The 2025 adopted budget includes recommendations to add a net 7 positions. If approved as recommended, the 2025 adopted budget will support 4,926 positions in total. Moving on to changes to the position allocation count, a net adjustment deleting 2 positions is recommended for departments supporting a strong and safe community. The adopted budget includes a recommendation to delete 1 vacant criminal investigator 2 in the district attorney's office due to the conclusion of the automobile insurance fraud program grant, and to delete 1 vacant block budgeted software engineer 1-2 position as the department evaluates options related to the future of the Integrated Criminal Justice Information System, or ICJIS. Similarly, the budget includes a recommendation to delete 1 vacant block budgeted software engineer 1-2 position as the probation department also assesses the future of ICJIS. A recommendation to add 1 block budgeted deputy sheriff 1-2 position for the city of Riverbank will serve as the community resource deputy. It is also recommended to add 1 sergeant to support the Sheriff's Training Center and to delete 1 vacant block budgeted Deputy Sheriff 1-2 to offset that addition. For departments supporting a healthy community, a total of 7 positions are being recommended. Recommendations for behavioral health and recovery services include adding 1 new block budgeted Manager 123 position to oversee the department's electronic health record system, and 4 block budgeted behavioral health specialist 2 positions to support the Housing Support Services Program, the Children Mental Specialty Services Team, and the Psychiatry and Medication Clinics. The adopted budget includes the recommendations to add 2 block budgeted community health worker 1-2 positions to support the Women, Infants, and Children's Program at the Health Services Agency. Departments delivering efficient public services will add a total of 2 positions. The adopted budget includes a recommendation to add 1 appraiser technician to support the business division in the assessor's office, and recommendations also include adding 1 staff service analyst to serve as the General Service Agency's safety officer. The adopted budget includes a recommendation for Information Technology Central, or ITC, to add 1 block budgeted software engineer 1-2 position and 1 block budgeted infrastructure engineer 1-2 position to support the ITC managed model. To offset these positions, it is recommended to delete 1 block budgeted software administrator 2 position and 1 technology specialist 3 position. In addition, there is an amendment to the staffing narrative in the adopted budget book to accurately reflect the positions and classifications transferring from the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Fire Warden budget to the Department of Office of Emergency Services. This line chart depicts the number of full-time allocated positions, noted with the blue line at the top, and the number of full-time employees, noted by the green line below. This new allocation count of 4,926 positions surpasses the previous high of 4,603 positions that was recorded in the 2008 adopted budget. This represents an increase of 323 positions, or approximately a 7% increase since the last 17 years. The continuing growth in staffing levels is primarily due to mandated programs and the increased need to provide services to the community. You can also see since the economic downturn, the vacancy rate has incrementally increased over time, with a wider increase during the pandemic. The county's employees' recruitment and retention strategy was approved on August 16, 2022, and included an immediate 5% base wage increase in the implementation of the Employee Choice Bonus Plan to ensure that the county's ability to recruit the best qualified candidates to fill vacant positions and to retain existing employees who hold valuable knowledge and experience that contribute to the success of the county organization. Early indicators show that the strategy is having a positive impact, as seen in the uptick of filled positions since the implementation, reducing the vacancy rate from a high of 16.9% in July 2022 to 13.6% as of July 1, 2024. The recommended 2025 budget net increase of 7 positions will bring the total position allocation count to 4,926 positions. This concludes the staffing portion of the presentation, and I'll pass it back to Patrice.
Thank you, Monica. Okay, on the slide before you is a chart identifying challenges and opportunities. The county team leadership across the organization regularly evaluates challenges and opportunities as they can impact our intended outcomes, services, and programs provided to the community. We also look at the challenges and opportunities through the lens of budget and financial analysis. They include the department unmet needs that are summarized in attachment 6 and additional issues that are described in more detail in the board agenda item. But specifically, as we moved through balancing the budget and evaluating all of the department requests, a number of those requests rely on community corrections program funding, and we deferred those to align with the final CCP presentation to the board. As well, there are significant facility needs throughout the organization, and we align those with the capital improvement plan that your board approved back in March of '24. As part of the capital improvement plan for 2024 through 2028, departments identified 82 potential projects. 47 were evaluated as the highest need, and they have a combined cost of $175.2 million. So that's additional exposure to our county organization. There is funding identified for many of those projects, and we have a funding gap of $39 million for the projects that are within the CIP. We intend to bring projects forward in separate board agenda items with full financial plans associated with each project as they go forward. New funding and financing plans will also be developed to support programs in which we're seeing exposures from costs outpacing revenue. We're seeing that within the Sheriff's Court Security Program. We're seeing it as well in mandate match for some of our health and human services programs. So I think earlier in the presentation I mentioned we'll be doing a deep dive with our department experts. There are subject matter experts in these program services. And again, we'll be looking for additional revenue streams. Where can we braid funds? Where can we leverage funds in order to mitigate the impacts to the county general fund? Those exposures will be brought back to your board no later than mid-year because we don't want to go past the midpoint of the year without having resolved cost exposures. Fee revenue from development agreements to support the cannabis program has declined, leading to a 14.49% reduction planned from the 2024 spending levels. So we made a preliminary adjustment in this adopted budget, and we will be working with departments to fully dive into what is the full operation of their programs with an additional second adjustment to right-size budgets at first quarter. So you'll hear more from us at that point. And then piggybacking on Monica's sharing of information regarding staffing, we also have, her team is actively involved in support of our labor organizations. We have letters of agreement with all 12 employee labor organizations to existing MOUs as a strategic effort aimed at supporting recruitment and retention. We have recently a new agreement with the Stanislaus County Deputy Probation Officers Association. The team has been actively meeting and bargaining with California Nurses Association, and will be embarking upon meetings with the Sworn Deputies Association. That agreement expires in December. We have a series of other meetings beginning this fall. Remaining employee labor organization agreements expire in 2025. So lots of work coming there, as well as meeting with United Domestic Workers of America through the county acting as the in-home supportive services public authority. That agreement also expires, excuse me, December 31st, 2024. Looking forward, the organization will continue to work on performance visioning. This process interacts with the budget. Optimally, performance visioning would be occurring always in advance of budgets, helping to inform decisions. We'll continue to work on that, aligning the timing of those two processes. We plan to come forward to the board in the fall with 2026 performance visioning, so we have a 2-year view there. As well, we'll be coming to share results from the year that ended June of 24. We plan, as part of the first quarter report, to do an in-depth financial analysis of the year that closed. The last 3 years in terms of trends. How did the budget operationalize? What are our actual utilization of our appropriations? What revenues actually came in? And then also, very importantly, for departments who maintain fund balance or retained earnings, what has been the 5-year view of that fund balance trend as well. All of that will come to bear as we move forward and look at future budgets and balancing of programs. If anyone would like more details on the 2025 adopted budget, including information, excuse me, on all of the accounts and staffing adjustments, you can find the electronic document online at stancounty.com/budget. And then alternately, you can go to the county's main page at stancounty.com, scroll to the bottom, and click on the piggy bank. That will get you to the 2025 adopted budget and also budgets from prior years. There are 9 staff recommendations before you this evening. I'll scan through them. 1, accept the 2025 adopted budget as presented by the Chief Executive Officer. 2, conduct the scheduled public hearing to receive public comment and input on this recommended plan for 2025. Then conclude the public hearing and direct and approve any changes your board chooses to make to the 2025 adopted budget and formally adopt that 2025 adopted budget. 4, authorize the Chief Executive Officer and the Auditor Controller to make the necessary technical adjustments to implement the 25 adopted budget. Moving on, 5, direct the Chief Executive Officer and the Auditor Controller to prepare the adopted budget document with supporting schedules in accordance with state law and submit that to the State Controller's Office prior to December 1, 2024. Number 6, amend the salary and position allocation resolution to reflect the recommended changes described in staffing impacts in attachment 2, which will become effective the start of the first pay period beginning on or after September 21, 24, unless otherwise noted. And 7, approve the change in Parks and Recreation office hours to 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, effective September 30th, as described in the 25 adopted budget. Number 8, adopt the updated Community Development Fund policy as outlined in the report and detailed in attachment 3. And finally, number 9, approve a total appropriations budgetary limit for annual appropriations of tax revenue for fiscal year 25 in accordance with the provisions of Propositions 4 and 111, which establish a general operating limit of $530,630,948, using the population and inflation methodology per attachment 4. And that completes our presentation of the 25 adopted budget, and all the county staff are available here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody that presented today. Thank you for everybody that spoke on different aspects of the budget, and thank you to all of the CEO team and staff, because this budget, it's months in the making, months in the planning, and then briefing individual board members to come to this point where we're able to adopt it, potentially adopt it for the public today. So with that said, board members that have questions, comments, I'll start. Supervisor Buckcondit?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrice, you talked about the court security program, and I think pretty soon we're going to be coming up and negotiating with the courts. Am I understanding that? Am I kind of along the right track?
Yeah, so we've been operating under an expired MOU with the courts for court security for some time. In the current fiscal year, our projections do show, and the Sheriff's Department has put forward a request that the existing general fund allocation will not be sufficient, and that the funds that we receive from 2011 realignment will not be sufficient to maintain the current service levels. So we have a delta there. So we will be in conversations with the courts to talk about that gap, that funding gap, and what our requirements might be to fill that gap. But it's definitely an exposure to the county general fund.
I appreciate that. Is there anything that makes them come to the table, or can they just be expired for as long as they want?
So there has been litigation in this area, and the litigation does suggest that even without absent an agreement, we do need to maintain some basis service level. It gets a little complicated there, but I will tell you that our conversations with the courts have been very good. They've been good partners to understand these impacts. I don't want to presuppose the outcome of our conversations, but having them come to the table to talk, to discuss these matters with us and to try to be creative in solution is not a challenge. So I think that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other members of the board? Comments, questions? Supervisor Chan's comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Patrice, staff, great presentation. I really appreciate it. I do have just a couple questions, and there are some questions that will be department specific, so I don't know if we'll need the proper department heads up to answer those or not. But I see that we're making some additions to the budget, and I think that's great. I don't know that that's necessarily benefiting our organization as a whole. I think we're doing a lot of adding to spending, but not necessarily adding to workforce per se. And, I do just have some examples from different departments, and just with the focus on efficiency. I know with our Public Works Department, for instance, we had a pothole case that was open in May 2nd of 2023. It was closed 15 work days later. We have another pothole case on Marshall Road that was closed 16 days later. We have a pothole case on Miller Road, and that was closed 69 work days later. I have another one 30 days. another one 27 days. I have a road hazard that was closed 56 days after it was reported. Another road hazard that was closed 37 days after it was reported. The vegetation and mowing of the Grayson Cemetery, we were contacted, and it took 72 days to have that mowed. So I guess I want to focus on efficiency. I think it's great that, you know, we have a balanced budget, but I think it's just as important to have an efficient budget. And I see Mr. Lehman, I do have some questions. I guess, what would be an average time to fill a pothole in your expertise?
Good evening, Board, CO Hayes, Council Bose. I would think, in general, a couple weeks is not crazy. I know some of those times, we were about 350 potholes behind in 23 because of all the rain. So we stopped pretty much everything else we were doing, and we ran every patch truck we had.
Yeah.
So that if it was 23, then yeah, it took us a little while to get caught up. But I would say in general, you know, I would say most of them probably get done within a week, but the average is probably longer than that, because some of them, like Pete Miller as an example, we just had a pothole reported on Pete Miller, and it's not a pothole, the whole road's shot. So, and it was staff, we talked and we said, well, look, we need to get back to the complainant and say, this is more than a pothole, this is a much bigger job. And so that we should have had closed within a week, probably. Just call the constituent back and say, it's on our list. We think we're going to be out there in, when are we going to be Pete Miller? I think Pete Miller's 26. So, you know, sometimes it takes us a little while, especially if it's not just a pothole and the whole road shot. Nebraska is an example off of 132. You know, it's more than just a pothole, the whole road shot. So it's going to take a little more than that to fix, so.
Now, how many members of the road crew are there, and how many are we allotted for?
I think we've got 41, I believe. We could dig for sure and find out, but
Okay.
we try to run a couple patch trucks a night or a day, so.
And what HR gave me, the number they gave me is we have 16 vacancies with the roads crew. Now, what would be the reasons for those type of vacancies?
Well, we're down to just 8 right now. So we had a good recruitment. We made a bunch of job offers in the last few weeks, so we're down to 8.
And we are actively recruiting to fill those positions?
Those we're going to hang on to for just a hot minute. Public Works and CO's office is going to come to the board, and we're going to talk about our long-term HUDA projections. HUDA is a general fund for Public Works. It pays salaries, it keeps the lights on, utilities, anything that RMRA and Measure L won't pay for, which is just project money. And so HUDA is
HUDA stands for
the Highway Users Tax Account. It's the oldest part of the gas tax, and so that's the part that has no strings essentially attached to it. It's, as long as it's for a road purpose, it's a legal use of road funds. Measure L is restricted to projects. So is RMRA, the Road Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account money from SB1. That also is project money. Can't use it for salaries, other than salaries billed to a project. So it does cover that. But it doesn't pay for utilities. It doesn't pay for cap charges. That's only HUDA. And so we have to have a conversation here pretty soon about our HUDA revenues and increased costs that we see across the organization. And the county's had a long time in this budget of no backfill, right? So when a special revenue fund like Public Works starts losing revenue, the long-term board policy has been, well, get right-sized. So we're just trying to get ahead of it a little bit.
Well, then Public Works is probably our most well-funded department in the county. That's one of our top, at least, and I know you're one of our top department heads. But the average salary just for line staff, hourly pay is $34.90 according to HR. Our deputy director and our managers make an hourly pay of $67. So if we were able to close that gap and make those line staff salaries more competitive, do you think we can therefore attract more line staff, more roads crews members, and we could be more efficient in filling our potholes?
We just had a really good recruitment close where we did have over 100 applicants, and we were able to pick up 8. And so I think salaries right now, I don't know what's going on more with the macroeconomy that says to me that I know people want to work again at the county, which is good. We need road workers.
Okay. Well, and since Measure-Rail in 2017, we have only performed 47 miles of overlay. If we did practice more of the overlay practice, we would probably have less potholes. Is this logic correct in that and thinking?
That is true, but the problem with overlays, when I started in 2007, we could do an overlay for about $100,000 a mile. And we got about 1.8 million of federal money for overlays. So we do 18 miles a year of federal overlays. The cost now is between $350,000 and $400,000, and the federal money we get is around 2.1. So the costs have quadrupled, and the funding has gone up $300,000.
Yeah, and that's probably why we should practice overlay as frequently as possible, is because that lasts longer than our chip seal. So we're getting more bang for our dollar in the sense that if we were to overlay 5 years ago or whenever, if it was more frequent, because the cost is only going to go up, probably, more than likely. So if we were to overlay instead of chip seal, because chip seal is just a Band-Aid, we've done since 2023, 124 miles of road chip seal on the road improvement preservation. Again, we've done only 47 miles of overlay. I mean, you quote this number all the time. How many miles of road do we have in Stanislaus County?
1,515.
Okay, well, if you just add 143 and 47, that doesn't even...
Well, we've got about 1,000 done so far since 2017. We're really close to that number, and I'd be glad to chip seal. Yeah, all surfacing is put together, and be glad to walk you through Street Saver. It's our pavement management system. We've got it up and running. We've been fully committed to it for a couple years, and it's quite delightful. And it'll help the engineer select treatments based on the amount of funding we've got and what we should be doing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why Public Works is reporting metrics of what percentage of our roads were treated at the right time and the right treatment. And so you'll be able to see that. Last year, in '23, it was higher than I would have thought, but we were doing pavement maintenance and pavement preservation on our major collectors, and that is the right treatment because they're in pretty good shape, relatively speaking. The year before was around 20-something.
Okay, well, I hope those new 8 positions do make a dent and some progress, and we see a lot more efficiency. I do think, for lack of better, 2 weeks is generally acceptable, but again, we get into those 69 days, those 70 days, that's where it does cause some concerns. I know we have different challenges and obstacles that we have to deal with, especially, not only with financials, but just the reality of the state of California and doing business and the cost of doing business. But still, my bosses hold me accountable, and it is my job to make sure that we have proper oversight, and therefore I hold our departments accountable, because we're judged based on our roads. I don't know how anybody else feels on this dais, but our roads are probably the most critical thing. And as far as grading system for myself, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I hear about our roads as I'm sure you do, but it's never a lack of conversation in that arena. So I do hope that we can continue making progress, and my focus is efficiency and just trying to be efficient. And if we need to allocate more staff, more bodies for your department to help you become more efficient, that's a win-win for everybody. And I want to make that offer to you. I don't know that I saw too much new staffing allocations in this year's budget, but in future budgets, I would encourage you to, maybe we could fill those gaps. And if we have to make our salaries more competitive, I, for one, will absolutely advocate in making those as competitive as possible. I think we should set a goal to have the most pristine roads in the Central Valley, if not the state.
Just our friends up north of us, San Joaquin County, they have a $90 million HUDA balance for many reasons. our roads will never be as good as San Joaquin County. But we strive to do the best we can with what we've got, and that's been Public Works' mission since the day I walked in 2007. So, you know, we do the best we can with the money we got, so, and it is no more or no less than what we get.
I don't really like a defeatist attitude, Dave. We will be better than San Joaquin one day. And I might not be here, but that is our goal, and that should be our goal. All right, well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And just, I guess, Patrice, other instances, and again, I'm just focused on efficiency. We have a abandoned trailers case with the Department of Environmental Resources that was opened in May. That's over on Fink Road. That has been 585 workdays. I don't know if that's acceptable. I understand that we've had issues with the contract for our tow company. We've had a vacancy on an abatement commission. But 585 days, I have to answer for that. I'm the one who's getting that call from the constituent who complained about that. We have a property cleanup on Laird Street that was open in May 8th, closed November 18th. That's 146 days. Another abandoned trailer on Highway 33, opened January 9th. It was just recently closed September 3rd, 163 days. So my focus is efficiency. Obviously I voted against the budget back in June. I can't see myself supporting a future budget. I'm certainly not voting on the budget tonight. But we have to focus on efficiency, and that's my goal, and I think that should be all of our goals. I really do. Rob, if you want to address those.
Good evening, Rob Kostlevy, Environmental Resources. In regards to the cleanup and abatements, there are due process that we must follow, and that takes time, and we have to give the property owners the opportunity to clean it up, and I believe that's what we did in these cases.
What's your average time?
It depends on the case. Each case is going to be different.
You can get a data from each case and do an average. If you could get me that, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
But regardless, take 585 days. I mean, I don't know. The Laird Street's 146. The other trailer case is 163. We had another abandoned trailer that's 131 days on Midway Avenue. So I would like to get an average, and maybe we can come up with a solution on how to cut that time frame down. Because again, I'm the one who's getting the calls. Why isn't this trailer removed? They don't understand the process. They want the trailer out of their hair. Again, it's on private property. I know the one on Fink Avenue, Cal Coastal had reached out to me about that. And again, that's 585 days. So I understand there's a process. I understand in a lot of ways maybe your hands might be tied. But again, if we can focus on efficiency and try to come up with solutions, maybe there's a better practice. And again, that's my goal, and I believe that's all of our goals.
Okay, and no, I don't have the cases in front of me, so I'm kind of going off this blind, but the one that you and I have been in contact with, and it was out on that, towards Fink Road, we had a notice of abatement hearing on it and got approval to remove it. Somebody moved the trailer to a different site next door, so it started all over again.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, what determines that? What makes that process start all over again?
It's a brand new property.
Okay. So, I mean, in that instance, we abated it, right? And then they just put it into, they just pretty much swept the, dust under the rug, or what? Can you elaborate more?
Sure. If somebody were to have something on your property, and we had a notice of abatement, and we went through the whole process, and we were going to clean it up, and at your cost. And somebody came in and moved that to a different site, and it's no longer on your site, I cannot cite you any longer. I have to start all over again on a new site on Supervisor Cave's site, who's now the new owner of that trailer.
But do you think if we could cut down on the time, they wouldn't even get the chance to go over to Supervisor Cave's property?
And that's going to be dictated by creating a new ordinance, because the whole notice and abatement hearing takes about 9 months.
9 months. Now, some of these cases were abated prior to 9 months. I mean, are those just special cases?
No, if we get the property owner to abate it, then we do that.
So we have been successful?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's when the property owner refuses to do it and drags their feet, and they'll go to the notice and abatement hearing, and then that'll eventually come to you.
Yeah, because like this one, 146 days, that's not 9 months. 163 days is not 9 months. I mean, I guess, I wouldn't really champion this as successes, but we have been able to beat the 9-month mark. I mean, if we can come up with policies that are best practice, more efficient, I think that's the goal. And I'm willing to help in doing that. It's just the public isn't as understanding as, I guess, myself and maybe this board is when they expect results. To fill a pothole takes 2 weeks. I don't know that we could abate a trailer in 2 weeks, but certainly not 3 to 6 months. And I guess that's where I'm coming from.
No, I appreciate that, but the one thing that we do not want to violate is anybody's due process, and they do have the right to abate it themselves. And that's our whole code enforcement process. We give them time, and then we eventually start fining them, and then as that fine goes on and gets higher and higher, that leverages our office with that property owner to abate that problem.
Yeah, and I'm not in favor of violating anybody's constitutional process. I'm just trying to make the process more efficient so that when the property owner does complain, we are responsive and act as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And again, I don't know that 585 days is efficient. I mean, I just don't. 163 days, is that efficient? Now, if you're telling me that's efficient, then just tell me that's your answer. Is that efficient?
My answer is that you're confusing the two. I explained it once already that one property was started to clean up. We went through the process. The project moved. The abatement could not go forward because it was moved.
Where's the Fink Road trailer now? That's still out in front of Cal Coastal?
I believe it is.
Okay. It's been 585 days.
And we started the process.
In the same spot.
Not the same spot.
It's been, since Jose Jimenez reported that to me, it's been on Fink Road. It's been on Highway 33. I've driven by it several times. So, is 585 days efficient, in your opinion?
I believe I answered the question.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. CEO, is 585 days efficient, in your opinion?
Well, I think the term efficient's...
it's debatable, isn't it?
It's subjective matter, but I will tell you that I understand that the public, when they see a nuisance, they want it abated as soon as possible. And I understand that we have to weigh our responsibilities under county ordinance to respect landowner rights. If we have information to suggest that we're not proceeding with the process as efficiently as we could, then that's something that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, I don't know how many emails from myself and my office does it take to actually get some movement on some stuff. And I don't know how my colleagues have, if they have the same experience as myself, but it does seem like I have to just beat my head against the wall until we actually get some movement on some things. And you look at these numbers, you look at these statistics. If you're going just based on sports, I mean, you're either getting benched or you're getting cut. That's all I'm saying. So, and if we have to go there, we have to go there. But I just, this in a way is reflective at the top. It's reflective of you, it's reflective of myself, it's reflective of this board. And I just don't know that these numbers, I can't go out and tell my constituents that we are being as responsive and as efficient as absolutely possible. And I don't know that the budget reflects that. I don't know that the budget is reflective of us trying to be as efficient and as accommodating to the public as possible. So that's my stance tonight. I will not be supporting this budget. And honestly, I'm going to have a hard time supporting any future budgets unless we have some drastic changes and measures made and trying to focus on efficiency, not just focus on growth. That's just going to be my position moving forward.
Any other members of the board with further questions, comments?
We'll wait till the end.
All right, I'm going to take this out to the public for any members of the public that would like to comment or have any questions on this item.
Efficiency, I like what he's talking about. I mean, normally we have a 30-day notice.
If you don't mind, just stating your name for the record, please.
Brian Evatt, 3024 Dakota. Anyway, I like what he's saying about efficiency, because I live in the county, and there'll be cars that are left there, and then nobody will take them unless they burn them. Then you can get something done if it's lit on fire. But otherwise, they'll just sit there. That one has been there forever. It's been on the end on the right. Nobody's moved it. So we do have to look at efficiency. Even with the road work, we have to look at efficiency. Is it cheaper for us to contract that out than deal with this? Probably is, because they got more equipment. That's what they do for their living. We got guys that just hang around here and fill potholes, and half of them are standing around or setting up pylons. Now, why wouldn't we just subcontract that out? Doesn't make any sense. Efficiency is where we need to go. And then training for this efficiency. We need to train. It goes with our sheriff's department. To train them, to have, look at us and the civil rights they protect, that's their oath. So if we can't train these officers, then we have no efficiency. If they can't uphold the civil rights that you have, we have no efficiency. That's what it comes to. That's the oath they take. Now, when they change it and get so narcissistic that they have to turn around and play it, they put more leverage onto our justice system. So what's the system there? Then you want more people to guard the judges. You want more people to guard the courts. That is no efficiency. We have efficiency loss everywhere because nobody will change it. Nobody changed the structure. San Diego is finally starting to change that structure. They're saying we can't have the same people operating the same business. We're going to go outside that training and we're going to bring in new people. Same way we should bring in contractors to find out if they're cheaper than we can do it. Our budget can go down. I'm sure it is. They got better equipment than we have. That's their job they do every day all across the country. So efficiency, he's got it right. And it goes around all of us have to look at that. 30 days, that's a regular notice for a rent. 60 days, they should have the problem solved. The same way a pothole shouldn't, because you know how much damage is created on every car that drives over that pothole? Now you're talking efficiency. Now you got the whole neighborhood having to go in and have their cars fixed over that. Does that sound very good? No, especially when it doesn't take anything to go fill a pothole. But we got guys standing around there, all they're doing is putting up pylons, don't want to do anything, leave their equipment there for weeks, where it is, that's not efficient. You got equipment costs just sitting there. Nobody's even operating it. So really, start listening to them, because I have the same thing to say that this guy has to say, because Chance has got it. And I'm sure Buck knows it too. I mean, this has all started from the time Gary was here. We tried to get this changed. You know, I like the condoms. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Listen to some of that. I'll speak more on other matters.
Great, thank you. Any other members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring back to the board for further questions or comments. All right, Supervisor Withrow.
Get my multiple mics going here, okay. Okay, first I want to thank Patrice, Joshua, Patrick, Monica, Sarah, and Andy. Thank you guys all for your hard work on this. Every year, at least in the 14 years that I've been doing this, I always am never disappointed by the work that you guys do and what you put together in this budget. And I have seen in the 14 years that I've been here a continual betterment of the county and our finances and the services that we provide. And so I just want to thank you guys for what you do. We can't do what we do up here without the numbers that you guys put together and the information you provide us to make these decisions. Again, as Manny says, in our budget briefings that we all sit through and talk about things that need to happen, changes that we think need to be made, through those briefings. And by the time it gets to us here, for the most part, we're comfortable with where things are. I just want to stress, if I could, a little bit of what a balancing act it is to prepare these budgets and for us to perform the services that have to happen here in our county. There's a couple charts that just illustrate this very graphically. that I could point out. If we could go back to our long-range model, this is one of my favorite ones. It's become one of our favorite ones, which shows the lines, where we show if we were to, have expended all of our funds, 100% of our funds versus 95 versus 91, 90.7, 85. There it is. So we got to look at that. And this is where it comes to the balancing act. And so this chart needs to go along, I wish we could put them side by side, next to our vacancy rate chart. If we could put that one up next, which Monica talked about here, and shows where we are with vacancy. There we go. We're at 13.6. So this is a catch-22 of everything that we do here. Catch-22, that dates me. Remember that there was a movie, Catch-22, and probably not very many. I'm too old. Nobody knows that movie, Catch-22.
Nobody's as old as that.
Yeah, I know. So, but it was a problem that you just couldn't solve. I mean, it's the balancing act that we're trying to get. So we have a long-range model that says if we, in essence, had 100% vacancy, which means we have everybody, all our positions that we've appropriated full, we run out of money. Okay, or, again, if we continue with the vacancy rate that we have, we probably can continue to have funds and to operate the county and to provide the services. And the vacancy rate causes us to not be able to provide all the services that we want to provide, right? I mean, that's how we're in this spot. And if you just to highlight a couple, I mean, Public Works is one of them, obviously. Infrastructure needs. We don't have enough individuals to do all these things. And so we can't keep up with that. Basic things, planning department. We are short in our planning department, which affects businesses that are trying to start or operate in our county. Our public defender's office, as we look through the probation, I'm just thinking of the areas that I know that we're short. BHRS, our mental health services, and addiction services, we have such a shortage there of individuals, which affects our community, affects our ability to be able to provide services for those individuals who need help, who then get into our system and affects all these other departments. Our auditor controller, another one, our accountants, we're short on those. So these things are the constant balancing that we have to deal with. And I know, I'm sure, Department of Environmental Resources, which we just had here and talked, I know there's laws there that we're up against, and I know all of us have to deal with those things as we try to get these things that Chance is talking about, trying to get those things done. We have to deal with staying within the laws that we have. But that's what we deal with when we do these budgets, and it's been a great run. We've had a good run for the last, I'd say, 13 years that I've been here, where things have constantly gotten better and funds have gotten better. It's been a bad run as far as personnel, as far as this vacancy rate thing. That has been a struggle for us, which directly affects the services that we'll be able to provide. But then, like I said, if we were very successful in all these appropriations that we've done for employees, we run out of money. So therein lies the problem that we struggle with, that we're here to try to deal with, and that we're here to try to find the balance of funds that we have to work with, the dollars that we have to work with, and the services that are very much needed, as Chance said, very much needed out there. There's no question that we have all these things that we need to do, but it's a balancing act, and how can we do them, how can we pay for them, how can we get the personnel to do them. And so we continue and will continue to fight this fight that we do every year with our budgets. And we come up with what we think is a happy medium, a place where we think we can get and accomplish these things within a reasonable amount of time and with the dollars that we have. And it's never enough. It is never going to be enough. I get that. But we take what we have and we do everything we can with what the cards that we're dealt with. A lot of them are cards, most of them are cards that we have no control over. I would say almost all of them, when it comes to revenue, are things that we have no control over. The economy affects it, the state and federal government, the funding that they hand down to us affects it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating as hell. There's no question about that. And Chance is right. We have to hear it. We all hear it all the time, all day long, whether it's from the public or it's sitting around family meetings, family gatherings. You know, it gets to the point sometimes I don't want to go to family gatherings because all I do is get nailed for these things. But I know it's not from lack of effort and from this board or from the employees, everybody who works for the county. We're all trying to balance do this balancing act. And so I will support this budget as I have in the last 14 years. And again, not from without input from all of us to get to this spot. Again, none of us are getting everything we want, and we all need, there's plenty of need out there. But here we are again this year without totally enough funds to do everything we want to do, without enough personnel to do what we want to do. But we will continue to push and fight this fight. And this is our happy medium, and we will move forward. So I'll support the budget this year, and thank you guys all for your good work here.
Okay. So it's always nice to go after Supervisor Withrow. It's kind of like yin and yang. He knows what I'm thinking before, and we tend to think the same way, I guess. First of all, I want to address HUDA really quick, the highway users tax, which is a declining revenue source. It's your gas tax that nobody likes to pay. I think it's like 50-some cents, and we get a portion of that. But as gas mileage and vehicles, you know, you used to get 12 miles to the gallon, you're getting 25, 30 miles to the gallon, we're collecting less. Electric cars only pay about a $50 charge. So roads, there's more vehicle miles traveled, there's less revenue coming in, so roads are being degraded faster. And Dave is a recipient of all that love. It's some money that really our half-cent sales tax in Stanislaus County plus SB1 have essentially just made up for the loss in that. And that's a political decision of which we're trying to change to go to vehicle miles traveled or some other mechanism to make up for that, because it is fundamentally unfair as we drive more and damage the roads more, and we have fewer dollars in order to deal with that tough situation. So I'm going to just go backwards for a second. Everyone loves when I go back on the reminiscent days of 2008 when you look at this staffing allocation. 4,603 positions back in 2008. It took us 15 years to get back to that level. Just as an indication, meaning, and if you've been with the county for 16 years, you remember 6% pay cuts, you remember paying more in your medical costs. I see head shaking, and 1,000 positions were removed from our total roll. And so, you know, we did less with less services, and we've slowly been trying to rebuild the organization. The cost structure continues to be there, and we continue to have to be competitive at all levels throughout this organization, which I think we're trying to do. The sky is obviously not the limit. The one big benefit we've had in this county is we've never taken on debt. I mean, we are literally debt-free, excluding pension liability, which is a debt. I don't want you to think that's about $800 million, but we just haven't taken debt on as a county because we have a no backfill policy. And generally, if programs are cut, we cut the positions. It's been that's the way we've done it. When we look now, so we've gone through this, and you see that line, it's been good every year since 2011. It's been on the uptick. And it's my belief right now, we see that property tax still have pretty decent growth. Sales tax are flat now, or flattening out pretty substantially. And interest income, which really saved us last year because interest rates were up, which is bad generally for the economy, but it wasn't bad necessarily for the county. We're up, but they're coming back into a more regular area. So when you look at $30 million more in additional spending just to keep the lights on, remember that figure, that's created the $23 million structural deficit. That's why you see only 7 positions added, and when we had our briefing, there were only 5 positions that were added. All of them were not general fund positions, meaning the federal government or the state government. Someone else was going to pick up the bill for that, or a contract city was going to pick up. So that'll tell you what kind of a position the senior staff believes, and I think the board members, that it's truly a tightening of the belt moment when we look overall at our at our situation, because the structural, and we've got 2 unions probably taken care of, we've got 10 more to go, plus UDW, I think you went over that. So we have some numbers built in, and but there's a lot of unknown there. And when you're negotiating, you're trying to figure out what's going on. We came out of this huge inflationary time, and the model that you showed up there, the 90.5% or 90-point-some% is where we can spend in order to stay flat, really sets it off for me. I know in my budget briefing, for the first time since 2009, I had said, because as I see all the department heads out there looking, you should be able to hire the positions that you have allocated. You should be able to, but you can't, because you see the line back there and you have to make your own budgets. So everyone's holding back. I heard Mr. Lehman talk about that, how you can hire 16, you may have 16 positions, but you have to keep the lights on, and you can't come back here and ask for more general fund money. It just doesn't, I know, keeps going on. Everyone can still hear me. Can you still hear me? I'm plenty loud. So long and short, this year in my budget briefing, I'd said, maybe it's time to contract open positions. The hard part is that when I look at what Terry was talking about, 21% in behavioral health. So there's 9 departments that have a 20% vacancy rate or higher. And if we froze positions or did something of that nature, it adversely affects certain departments and other people, especially the smaller departments tend to have an easier time filling their vacancies. But, I don't like to tell people we have I can't even read the number, 4,900 positions, but you can't hire those 4,900 positions because we can't afford it. That's truly not fair. So we have to, and this isn't the appropriate time to talk about that, and we'll do that at a board retreat or something when we, on a go-forward basis. But I know it is the balancing act we talked about. It is a continual balancing act, because we don't want to end up, we're better positioned today than we were back in 2007-8. We weren't as well prepared as we are today. I think we can course correct quicker regardless of the situation. But again, trying to spend 90.5% shouldn't be our goal. It should be trying to spend 95%, normal vacancy rate. And so we as a board have to reevaluate that. So I'm very supportive of this. Again, I have all my input. I always figure that I'm not going to change things when I get here because I've already lost or not won, but if my ideas don't carry the day and they make it into this budget, then I know that there's other people that disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. I think that it is the way we operate, but I think this is a good solid budget for times that are more uncertain than they've been since 2009, 10, 11, since those years. It really is. And maybe I'm a little more pessimistic than most, but it's like living through the Great Depression, the Great Recession, and I can't get it out of my mind because there were such bad days, and I don't want to be back there again. I want to make sure we can still provide services to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I love going after our CPA and then our resident budget hawk. They put so many good things into words that I wouldn't be able to do, so I love going behind them. Let's just say I think we all felt this coming in the last couple of years, the economy slowing down. We knew that we weren't going to have the money coming in like we were, but I want to stay positive and say there's, at some point we were maybe running, jogging, whatever, put it in perspective. Now we're taking baby steps, taking a little walk now. But we're still making improvements. Case in point, our libraries, our parks, fixing the infrastructure within the county. We're still moving forward, just not at the clip that we would like to be. The keeping the lights on. I think we're doing a little bit more than keeping the lights on, just to keep it positive. Patrice, Joshua, Monica, Patrick, Sarah, Andy, Rob, Dave, at the end there. Thank you for everything you guys have done. It was a great presentation. CEO's office, thank you for your budget briefing, our 4.5 hour budget briefings. All of our questions were answered. Thank you for the whole entire team of putting that together. I appreciate it, and I'll be supporting the budget.
All right, I like going after everybody because I get to call for a vote. So if there are no further questions, I would entertain a possible motion.
I'll make a motion to approve all staff recommendations.
Second.
I got a motion by Supervisor Withrow and a second by Supervisor Condit. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 4-1. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very, very much for all of your attention this evening. Really, really appreciate it. And quick shout out to Jill Ward, Deputy Executive Officer, who could not be here with us tonight and put the presentation together. I think she did a great job.
She did. Thank you so much. Thanks again for everything you did to put this budget together. All right, well, next item is a discussion item. I'll just wait for everybody to kind of orient themselves.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll start with discussion item. I know Supervisor Kears will be coming in, but by the time you guys get started, approval to increase the project construction budget for the Crow's Landing Road over San Joaquin River Bridge Replacement Project, and the presentation will be conducted by Dave Lehman.
Thank you, Chair Graywall, Board, CO Hayes, Council Bose. With me tonight, I brought Sam Shuren. He's the Deputy Director of Engineering for Public Works, and also the Senior Civil of Construction, Gary Mueller, and our one of our REs, resident engineers for HDR, Phil White, in case there's questions. So we're here for the approval to increase the project construction budget for the Crow's Landing Road Bridge. A little background, on April 22nd, 1997, the board declared the Crow's Landing Road Bridge as one of 3 critical links, the other 2 being McHenry and 9th Street, and they're already replaced, within Stanislaus County for emergency access, and declared that these bridges must remain open. The old Crow's Landing Road Bridge was built in 1949 and was deemed to be structurally deficient and scour critical and needed to be replaced. The final environmental clearance for the bridge structure was received on August 8th, 2019, and design was completed in December of 19. On July 28th, 2020, the board approved a construction management services agreement with HDR in the amount of $2.2 million. And on October 13th, 2020, the board awarded a construction contract to Security Paving in the amount of $18.2 million and authorized the Director of Public Works to execute contract change orders on a not to exceed 10% basis, or approximately $1.8 million.
Good evening. I'll be talking a little bit to the delays that we experienced during the project construction. On September 20th, 2022, the board approved amendment number 1 to HDR's construction in the amount of about $1.7 million for a new not to exceed amount of about $3.9 due to the following reasons. Immediately adjacent to the project site, a nesting Swainson's hawk was identified, which delayed in-water work construction by almost a full construction year. Additionally, several-month delay in performing work due to various unforeseen conditions that popped up during construction. These delays added significant effort associated with biological monitoring and of the nesting bird, and 1 year's worth of additional construction management scope to the project. Then came the storm of 2022-2023. Multiple atmospheric rivers, as we all are well aware of, brought heavy rains to the valley here, raised the river levels and increased river flows, which wreaked havoc on the project site. As by pictures here, you see that the project is severely inundated. And which one over here? Yeah, sorry, Dave flipped through them already. Due to the floods, the entire work site was submerged for approximately 6 months from January to July 23rd, requiring the following repair work. Removal of debris such as weeds, shrubbery, and sand, repair to temporary pavement and shoulder backing, restoration of access roads, restoration of damaged false works, providing divers for trestle inspection and material retrieval, to name a few. Next slide, Dave. On October 31st, 2023, the board approved an increase to the project construction budget above 10% and additional change orders to the construction agreement with Security Paving Company in the amount of $1.3 million for a new total of approximately $25.7 million. Something to note is that Governor Gavin Newsom requested and received an expedited major disaster declaration during this time frame. In hindsight, Public Works should have asked the board to declare a local emergency for their project at that time. Mother Nature was not quite done yet. In 23-24, another series of catastrophic atmospheric river came through and inundated the San Joaquin River and flooded our site again. In hindsight, we should have done the same thing. We should have declared a local emergency for this event also. Due to this particular flood, the site was submerged again, and which required the following repair work: restoration of damaged bridge falsework and trestle, including providing divers for underwater inspection and material retrieval, placements of falseworks on piles due to shortened construction season, acceleration of work to complete in water work prior to next rainy season, and restoration of flood damaged riverbank slope, abutment footings, and irrigation lines. Again, it's just some more photos of the flood damage for the 23-24 storms. And with that, we have a little video here to share. It's a time lapse of the bridge construction, and you'll see there, if you look closely, you'll see the rivers going up once, coming down, going up again, then coming down. Those that represents the 2 flooding events that we had at the project site.
It's only a minute long.
Yeah, it does end.
They had to remove their equipment, right?
Right, twice.
Twice, yeah. There it is.
Right. Yeah.
This bridge is a lot of fun. The old bridge to tow a trailer over. If you ever pass a big rig while you're towing a trailer, it was always fun on the old bridge. Kind of narrow, 22 feet. Now, that was, it's always fun putting up the cameras. We put up a couple on our bridge projects just because it's fun to have the pictures. Takes about every 15 minutes. Then I'll throw a video together for you. Should be noticed that additional CCO work was performed that exceeded the current Board of Supervisors approved budget authority as of October 31st, 2023. Public Works made the decision to exceed the budget authority to complete the project with Security Paving. It continued to stay on site while Public Works sought approval of additional funds. Typically, construction change orders that exceed the 10% threshold require board approval prior to authorizing work. However, doing so would have delayed the project to the next construction season, which would have placed Caltrans reimbursement at risk and likely resulted in substantial cost increase to the project. The construction change order can be summarized in 4 categories below. Unforeseen project overruns for quantities, including Caltrans changes their bridge rail standard in the middle of the project and said, nope, you're going to do it, we're paying for it, okay, fine. Flood damage repairs totaling $324,043 for trestle restoration, providing false work, acceleration of work, and roadway differing site conditions due to wet subgrade and site access restoration. Time-related overhead is expenses for normal and recurring construction activities not directly related to the work, such as management, rent, utilities, maintenance, project engineering, accounting, insurance, et cetera, consisting of following totaling $692,200. And that resolved the project delays through 12/31/22, the Swainson Hawk delay, emergency operations work during flood period, emergency operations to restore flood damage, and additional Swainson Hawk delay. They're delisted federally, not the state. And every bridge project we've done so far over one of our rivers has had Swainson's Hawks right next to them. 7th Street Bridge has a pair. They're everywhere. Potential claim items consisting of the following work totaling $3,107,963, acceleration inefficiencies, materials rent, escalation of costs for labor, equipment, and materials, HMA price increase, bond cost increase, and additional miscellaneous extra work items. The board previously authorized Public Works to approve contract change orders in accordance with Public Contracts Code Sections 2137 and 2142. The amount of the change orders for the project exceeded the statutory authorization provided under these sections, and therefore these changes must be approved by the board. As previously stated under Public Contracts Code Section 2137B, changes in the project that exceed 10% of the contract price require competitive bidding. However, in this case, grounds exist for an exemption under the Graydon versus Pasadena Redevelopment Agency case, which states that the board may approve changes or additional work in excess of 10% without rebidding the project if the board finds that a competitive bid for the additional work would not produce an advantage to the county and the public, and that advertisement for a competitive bid would thus be undesirable, impractical, or impossible. These factors exist for the following reasons. It would be impractical and undesirable to stop the project while underway in order to bid out the extra work as a contractor was on site and the county would have incurred an extra mobilization cost. It would not have been advisable to leave incomplete work and potentially unsafe conditions for the traveling public. The county would not have received a lower price by bidding out the extra work due to the economy of scale discount we are likely to receive, as the extra work is part of the overall project. Competitive bidding requires an award to the lowest responsible bidder, which could result in multiple contractors on the same project, thus subjecting the county to unnecessary risk associated with delay claims, property damage, equipment damage, and injury to contractor personnel. The county would risk delaying the project another construction season. One of the early ones, Mark Hamlin, who was a senior in construction at the time, asked Dave, we might have to close the bridge before we get done. I go, no, Mark, we're going. We got to get it open, because before we got the new stage done on Crow's Landing Road Bridge, it was one of the bridges on the San Joaquin River we had to close, like Hills Ferry. Hills Ferry we'd still have to close today because it's scour critical. So we got the new phase open, the new stage, and we won't have to deal with that ever again on Crow's Landing Road Bridge. The county would likely not receive reimbursement from Caltrans for any extra work performed past the current construction season. We're asking for a total amount for HDR of $4,839,901. Amendment number 2, this one is $1,019,036. Security paving, we're asking for an additional up to $4,191,258, total of $25,515,200. And I'll read the staff recommendations. Approve an increase to the construction budget for the Crow's Landing Road over San Joaquin River Bridge Replacement Project by $5,210,294 from $25,703,703 to $30,921,997. Approve the second amendment to the professional design services agreement with HDR Construction Control Corporation, Inc. in the amount of $1,019,036 for this bridge, for a new not-to-exceed total of $4,839,901, and extending the term of the agreement to December 31st, 2024. They're still doing project closeout. There's a bunch of paperwork we got to do for the feds and state. Authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the second amendment to the professional design services agreement with HDR Construction Control Corporation in the amount of $1,019,036 for a new not-to-exceed total of $4,839,901, extending the term of the agreement to December 31st, 2024, and to sign the necessary documents. retroactively approve contract change orders number 19.2, 45.1, 50.1, 51.4, 52, 54, 55.1, 56, 57, 58, 59, 62, 63, 64, C2, C3, C4, C6, 61, C10, C12, C13 to the construction agreement with Security Paving, Inc. for debris removal, emergency operations, and permanent restoration due to storm damage and other related unforeseen project overruns, the amount of $4,191,258 to the Crow's Landing Road Bridge project. Authorize the Director of Public Works to retroactively execute change orders with Security Paving in that same amount, and authorize the Director of Public Works to take any appropriate action necessary to carry out the purpose and intent of these recommendations, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Any members of the board with any questions, concerns?
Bridge looks great.
Great.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dave, if we would have declared a local emergency either in 22-23 and then 23-24 during one of those events, would we have been reimbursed in some cleanup by the state or by OES or federal funds or?
These are clean funds, Supervisor Condit, so they're FHWA, because they come through that direction. FHWA reimburses much quicker, and so the bridge program, because it was, Crow's Landing Road Bridge is a major collector and on the federal aid system, FHWA would pay for it, but there was no point because there's a federal aid bridge project already, and so they said, we're just going to pay for the extra damages through the highway bridge program. So we are getting reimbursed, and Caltrans has approved all these numbers. They understand. 2 floods are rolling through our project, just bad luck.
Okay, understood.
All right, well, I'm going to take it back out if there's no further questions. I'm going to take it out to the public. Any members of the public wanting to have any questions or?
Contracting bridges, you need to contract these out. It's like C.C. Myers. They wanted to do the same thing on 132. Instead, we took it on, and we wound up losing. We had flood problems, they had dug a big old hole, and we could have done a lot cheaper. But they didn't want to take that contract. It seems like they want to take it on themselves instead of looking for subcontractors that'll do the job. If the subcontractor turns around and finds themselves in a situation, they still have to abide by the contract that they did. So why would we constantly fight with you guys so we do it ourselves when we can have subcontractors that take some of this loss? Just makes no sense. Now, are we just going to keep doing this kind of stuff over and over again? Leave it into your hands? Or are we going to find people that do it? Everybody's doing it anymore. I mean, they can get their labor down less than what we're paying our labor. I mean, now you got all these illegals. 1 out of 10 is an illegal. They'll work for $16 an hour. Now, why should we pay 34? That contractor, he can get that guy, so he can lower his bid. Then he'll be responsible for that job. Instead of, we'll take it on, oh, there's a loss. Dang, we could have subcontracted out and not had that loss, because we know what we're paying then. That's why we got to start looking. It goes right back to Chad.
Just to make sure the county didn't build the bridge.
You know?
We subcontract out.
You subcontracted out, but
Yeah.
find the contractors. C.C. Myers would have took that job on, would have had their own plans. We don't need to draw up those plans. They'll have their own and what their costs are. It isn't going to change when they finish it. The point is, if we just take little subcontractors and piece them all together, sure, we're going to have problems. They're all going to have their excuses. It's just not right that you take those losses on all those little things, and then because you want to take a little percentage of it and do it yourself. That's the whole thing. That's why they do that professionally. It's in any professional job, you know? That's why you get one prize, one contract, they finish it. The losses they're going to have to use, or the losses they're going to have to. You get it from the state. The state's giving you the money. Hahn, the same way. Hahn had to bribe you guys $1 million to get that overpass at Hahn Shopping Center, to go get the state money. You guys came up with half of a freeway. So he comes back and he goes, why are you only getting half? You got the state's money. He had to bribe you guys. Now, this is the same kind of situation. Get the job done properly. Stop screwing around with it. Get the contracts. Let it fall on the next guy. You know it's going to be completed no matter what. But no, we'll do half, just like 9th Street. Let's take the railroad tracks out. Here, we got a price now. 3 years later, oh, we need more money. We didn't do it. Then we cover it up with asphalt. The railroad track's still under there. See, just have somebody do the job right in the beginning. And you don't have to struggle along. Now, all we need to do is oversight. Oversight. We need a lot more oversight in this whole county, in every position. And the sheriff's department lost this cannabis thing.
You still have time if you want to just do it, speak there instead of.
Losses that we have in this county, the cannabis, that's the biggest loss. People turned around and voted that, so that way the price would go down, but instead, we take it over and make it up. Here, it's equal to a Vicodin or a Oxycontin now, one joint, one Oxycontin, because we're gonna make money. No, the way to relieve that is not have the cartel, not have the crime coming around. Lower the price. It should be for free. Give it to them people instead of the Oxycontin. Same thing. Just get a contract, make them abide by the contract, and stop messing around. That's what you guys are. You're supposed to get together and say, who's got the best contract? Can we work with this? Is it going to be a stable situation? But no, it's not stable. You want more money for this one. You start more entities, more heads of snakes is all you're doing, and you're wondering why I can't keep up with the budget. Because we're paying more out for this. I mean, even the cities are doing it. Now we got neighborhood preservation. Now we got to hire 3 or 4 more people. There goes another $1 million a year, just boom. What do we need it for? Because neighbors are fighting each other and they call on each other. So let's go check it out. Cannabis police we got. Oh, he's growing a bush in his yard. Let's go send 5 officers out there. I mean, you start thinking about it. Where's the control? You got them all running out there doing whatever. We're losing money everywhere. We might as well just be a sieve, just running out. We're not holding any water in our hands. That's what we got to do. Cup the water. It says right on your sign, water, wealth, health, and contentment. Hold on to it.
Right, thank you. So I'm going to bring you back to the board if there's a possible motion or any further questions.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Yep, second.
All right, motion by Supervisor Buckhanded, second by Supervisor Chiesa. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, appreciate it. All right. Correspondence, acknowledge receipt of correspondence or refer as recommended on the agenda. Board of Supervisors reports.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I have a government night this Thursday, 5:30, the Turlock Library Community Room. It is a local government night. Sometimes I have the congressman and the assembly folks. This time it is the Turlock Unified School District. Chair Silva will be there. Councilwoman Rebecca Moniz from the Turlock City Council and Michael France from the Turlock Irrigation District, as well as myself. Again, 5:30 this Thursday, the community room at the Turlock Library, and it'll go till about 7 o'clock. Updates and a few questions can be asked.
Yeah, just a quick report, I guess, on the theme of efficiency. So we did get a complaint about the vegetation overgrowth in Monterey Track Park over there on Foy Avenue. We had pretty much, you saw the photos, and I'll post them later on social media, but they were coming into the right-of-way. When you're driving, you pretty much had to ride on the other side of the road. We put in the request August 27th due to staff constraints. I was told by Mr. Lehman we would not be able to get out there for 5 weeks in October. So myself, a couple other gentlemen went out and we went ahead and we took care of the brush. We took care of those weeds. It's completely done. But again, it's about efficiency. Are we going to wait 5 weeks to go and do an hour job? Or are we going to, go take it into our own hands? I remember the video of Governor Schwarzenegger out there filling up potholes. That's, sometimes I guess you just got to do that. But again, it goes back to efficiency and just, I'm sorry, but 5 weeks isn't good enough for me. I'm not going to wait 5 weeks for an hour job to go do weeds. I would just go do it myself if I have to. But you can't do that on every incident. I can't be like Governor Schwarzenegger and go out there and fill my own potholes. But I'll try. And if you want to fine me for that, you go ahead and do it. I'll take the fine. But I have I have no regrets about going out there and doing that. We went out, me and a couple gentlemen went out over the weekend and we got those weeds cut down.
Thank you.
I'm going to, just real quick, it's been a while since we met. We haven't been here in a while. And so we had an event called No Child Left Behind. I'm sorry, it's called Not My Child, No Child Left Behind. That's something it was called, Not My Child. It's a One Pill Can Kill. It was all about the fentanyl crisis and what's going on. And they had an event. It was a 5K run at MJC West. And it was just an amazing turnout, the amount of people there. I think we had over 1,700 people showed up for the event, which was, I think the previous year, I can't remember the numbers, there were 400 or 500 the previous year. So it's just, it is great that we're getting the word out, and that's what it's all about, is trying to inform the public about the dangers of what's going on out there for everyone. And it's not something that's just for individuals who are drug addicts. It's for everyone to be aware of what's happening out there with this fentanyl crisis. And it was so great to have we've had them here before, a few of them here before at our board meeting. These parents are stronger than I would ever be. And they came and stood and talked on the stage to the 1,700 people that were there. All of them had pictures of their family members that they had lost, and just the strength and courage they had to be there to try to discourage, to try to prevent this from happening to anybody else's family member. So anyway, great event. I didn't run in the 5K, but I rode a little golf cart. And so, but it was amazing the amount of people that were there, and just a good turnout. And I think we're really getting the word out there, and it's all about saving lives. So a good event.
Great. Thank you. Supervisor Buckhunt and I got an opportunity to visit the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. alongside our CEO and CEO staff. I'm going to defer to our CEO to kind of give the list of all the things all the people we were able to meet, departments, and things we were able to accomplish.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. So as mentioned, staff along with our chair and vice chair, we were in Washington, D.C. last week for our annual legislative advocacy trip with our federal lobbyist, our new federal advocacy firm, Carpy and Clay. We met with staff from the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, the Director of Federal Affairs for Governor Newsom, Department of Transportation, staff from the House Highway and Transit Infrastructure Subcommittee, Representative Josh Harder's office, the National Association of Counties, Representative Adam Schiff, Senator Alex Padilla, the Department of Justice, the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, Representative John Duarte, the Brookings Institute made a showing, and Representative Tom McClintock also allowed us a brief drop-in in the office and graciously invited us to follow him to the House chamber while he participated in a House session. That was very nice of him. And also had the opportunity to introduce ourselves to Senator Butler, who we ran into just near the Capitol, although we were unable to squeeze a specific visit into her office given that entire list. That was probably one of the most robust advocacy trips we've had. Some of the following county issues were what we highlighted during those meetings. We focused on our Stanislaus 2030 Economic Development Investment Blueprint, specific conversations on childcare, small business supports, workforce development, and our future circular bioeconomy. Lots of interest at the federal level on all of these topics. We focused on urban pockets, county communities, and water infrastructure, the need for critical infrastructure in those areas, the needs for improvements to our aging bridge system, as well as illegal trafficking and public safety communications. So that was the menu of topics, along with a couple of other miscellaneous items that popped up in conversation. I feel we were well served by our new federal advocacy firm, and we are already working on follow-up to those meetings to advance our interests with all of those federal partners. So thank you for the opportunity, as always, and support to go back there and advocate for Stanislaus County.
All right. Well, thank you so much. If there are no other reports, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.